Chapter 704. Long Ting was dumbfounded. She did not expect a woman to have such a terrifying influence. She had even comprehended the third hex. This Humaingyang is not simple. Little Shui, why are you here? Long Ting asked Qin Shui. When Humaingyang appeared, Qin Shui had quietly come to their side. She only paid attention to the situation and did not say anything. What's going on? The loud shouts and fighting finally woke Qin Hao up. What entered his eyes was the extremely chaotic scene in front of the core palace. Someone actually comprehended it. Little Shui, what are you doing? When Qin Hao woke up, he instantly frowned when he saw the handsome and valiant Qin Shui. It's a mess here. I was worried, so I came to take a look, Qin Shui said. She naturally could not say that she was worried Qin Hao would be bewitched by the demon. What's there to worry about? Hurry up and change back. I want to slap you when I see you like this. Qin Hao glared at Qin Shui. Although he knew that this was Qin Shui's unique ability, he was still not used to it. What do you plan to do? Qin Shui frowned and glared at Qin Hao. Qin Lin, Moling Takshu and a legion commander called Bai Yan are all very strong. There's an even stronger Humaingyang. Who is Humaingyang? Qin Hao frowned slightly. He still had the advantage in terms of perception under the 9 seals. When he entered the city, he heard that Qin Lin and Moling Takshu might be coming here. Therefore he was not surprised. Qin Shui's emphasis on Humaingyang made him more concerned. She's a legendary existence in the Divine Temple, the holder of the highest score in the vast universe galaxy's second world. She was the one who comprehended the third hex and opened the core palace. Long Ting said. Qin Shui wanted to say something, but she held back and did not say anything. After all, if she reminded Qin Hao not to be bewitched, she would be too petty. Moreover, from Humaingyang's seemingly courteous behavior just now, she did not put Moling Takshu and Bai Yan in her eyes at all. It seemed unlikely that she would have any interaction with Qin Hao. What do you plan to do? What else can we do? Regardless of who it was, since the core palace had been opened and the situation had become chaotic, it was only natural that they would have to fight for it. This time it might even be a saint artifact from the primordial era. However, I want to go in. I want to enter too. Will it be dangerous for you to go in? Qin Hao said. Even when you weren't around, we were still training. Besides, it's chaotic now. With so many people going in, no one will dare to act rashly. It's fine if we don't go with you, said Qin Shui. Right. Call Huan, Lei and the others to go in and cultivate. I'll take care of the rest. Big brother Hao, you have to be careful of that Humaingyang. Don't fall into her trap. Long Ting said without even thinking. Follow her orders. That's right, you didn't see it just now. I had only heard about it in the Divine Temple and didn't believe it at all. But after seeing it just now, I have no choice but to believe it. Rumor has it that Humaingyang was born with a seductive bone. Moreover, she has the legendary innate Dao embryo. Her strength is unfathomable. She is the current generation's holy maiden of the Misty Rain Tower. Have you heard of the Misty Rain Tower? When Qin Shui heard Long Ting say this, she secretly rejoiced. The silly Long Ting was truly too cute. It was undoubtedly the most appropriate thing for her to say. Qin Hao definitely wouldn't think too much about it because in the hearts of everyone, Long Ting was an existence that didn't have any taboos. They didn't dare to do what they were embarrassed to do, and they didn't dare to say what they were embarrassed to say. Cough cough. I've heard of this. Don't worry, besides all of you, no one in this world can bewitch me. When he heard Long Ting say this, Qin Hao spoke confidently. After he finished speaking, he looked at Qin Shui, who seemed to have heaved a sigh of relief, and said, Little Shui, I was wondering why you hesitated to speak earlier. Look at little sister Ting, she can just say whatever she wants to say. Why are you being so courteous with me? I didn't. Qin Shui, who was rejoicing, didn't expect that she would give herself away and be exposed by Qin Hao's words. A wisp of red appeared on her valiant and formidable face. Qin Hao's entire body shuddered when he saw this. I'll go in first. Little Shui, from today onwards you must never appear before me with this face. Otherwise I'll have a psychological barrier. Hiss hiss hiss. At the instant Qin Hao charged into the palace. A pressure that seemed material covered the sky and covered the earth, pressed down on his body. The scene in front of him changed in an instant. Almost 1,000 people appeared before him. Some had a relaxed expression, and some were drenched in sweat and desperately resisting the pressure as they slowly advanced. This won't do. The pressure of the Dao Law in the core palace is actually so terrifying. Brother Lon, I have to stop and comprehend. I'm unable to advance. Yes, don't force yourself. In any case, we don't have the qualifications to fight for anything. It's fine as long as we can cultivate here. This is a rare opportunity. Yes, Brother Lon, don't worry about me. If you can advance, then continue forward. Under the enormous pressure, Qin Hao seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll as he caught up with the crowd in front of him. The two cultivators who were talking widened their eyes in shock, and then they hurriedly turned their heads to avoid Qin Hao. The person who had a calm expression earlier clenched his fists nervously, and even his breathing became hurried. We meet again? We're really fated. What do you want? Lan Feng asked nervously. Ever since he had entered the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing, he had been ravaged by Qin Hao for the first time, robbed of all his rootless fruits, and beaten up until he was half crippled. Lan Feng was extremely dissatisfied and he had madly cultivated in an attempt to get back at Qin Hao. Moreover, he was quite lucky. In less than half a month he had entered a cave abode that was better than the spiritual spring lake for cultivation. What made him feel even more fortunate was that he had coincidentally bumped into Qin Hao and the others in the first Forbidden City. Unfortunately, his joy had once again turned into a cruel reality. He was defeated by Qin Hao alone. Not only did Qin Hao rob him of his Dharma treasures and spiritual herbs, but he also slapped him until he was swollen like a pig's head. At that time, although he was dissatisfied, he knew he had no chance of getting back at Qin Hao in the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing. Moreover, after being defeated twice in a row, he had lost his prestige and his team had been utterly defeated. More tragically, in the second Forbidden City, he who had always been cautious had miserably bumped into Qin Hao again and was robbed of everything. He did not expect to bump into Qin Hao again here. Was there anything more tragic than this? Don't be nervous. The sword is not bad. It's actually a supreme-grade spiritual treasure. Lan Feng's expression was extremely unsightly, and his voice trembled as he spoke. The surrounding cultivators also turned to look at Lan Feng. Do you think you can keep it? This is an ancient supreme-grade spiritual treasure. I'm doing this for your own good. I'll keep it safe for you. Qin Hao had a smile on his face as he stretched out his hand in an ostentatious manner. It was as though he was very concerned about Lan Feng. However, in Lan Feng's eyes, it was the smile of a devil. An ancient supreme-grade spiritual treasure? Isn't that something that can only be found in the second level of the palace? Not necessarily. People with great providence can also obtain heaven-defying Dharma treasures and inheritances. This disciple from the divine temple is not simple. I can't tell it's a supreme-grade spiritual treasure. That guy is obviously trying to rob us. He must have said that on purpose, right? Who is he? I think I saw him meditating in front of the 16 great palaces with a female disciple from the divine temple. Even the disciples from the divine temple are afraid of him. It's Qin Hao, the most powerful person in the East Flow division. Although the surrounding people were under pressure, they still began to discuss among themselves. Many of them even recognized Qin Hao. This is the last time. Let's call it quits. I apologize to you. Lan Feng's face turned green and white as he spoke in an extremely stifled manner. Hand over the treasured sword. Qin Hao smiled slightly and beckoned with his finger. Agree first. Sigh, underling Lan, I'm not trying to nag you, but I'm doing this for your own good. Look how many people are eyeing your treasured sword. It's a supreme-grade spiritual treasure and an ancient grade one at that. Don't you know that a man's wealth is his own ruin? If you don't say it, who will know that it's a supreme-grade spiritual treasure? Lan Feng was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. But, really? Qin Hao did not stand on ceremony. With a flash of his body, he reached out and snatched the treasured sword from Lan Feng. Lan Feng wanted to resist, but he forcibly held himself back. Of course, under the immense pressure of the Dao laws in the palace, he could not resist. At the same time, Qin Hao's lightning-fast movements made him even more aware that this demon was too terrifying. If you have any more treasures, remember to give them to me. I'll take care of them for you. No one will dare to touch them. Qin Hao held the treasured sword with both hands. He unsheathed the sword a little and it emitted a cold and sharp aura. He closed the sword with satisfaction and said with a smile. After he finished speaking, he walked forward as if nothing had happened. The surrounding people were a little dumbfounded and stunned. At this moment, Those who did not walk forward did not want to, but they could not. Even if they could, it would be difficult for them to walk forward. What about Qin Hao? Lan Feng angrily glared at Qin Hao. He looked as if he was about to vomit blood, but in his heart, he rejoiced that he had encountered Qin Hao in the core palace in public. Otherwise, the treasured sword would not have been the only thing stolen. However, after a while, when everyone was no longer looking at Lan Feng, he suddenly let out a miserable scream like a pig being slaughtered. He groped around all over his body as if he had lost the most precious thing he had. Could this kid be the son of destiny? This thing must be a treasure. As Qin Hao walked, he sensed the almond-sized silver ball in his hand. Waves of Tao laws flowed into Qin Hao's body like a clear spring. Although he was embarrassed to look at it in public, Qin Hao was certain that this was a treasure. In his heart he was full of admiration for Lan Feng's luck. The things he had robbed the last 2 times were not inferior to what he had robbed in the 2 core palaces. This time just the treasured sword alone was very awesome. The silver ball that he had casually stolen seemed even better. It's a pity that there are too many people. I don't want to search them. Under the circumstances of the 9 restrictions of Immortal Sealing, although they had broken through 2 levels and gained some magic power and divine consciousness, none of the cultivators had been able to open their storage rings, let alone the space in their minds. Otherwise, Qin Hao would not have been able to steal so easily. Chapter 705. This Qin Hao is so relaxed. Could he have completely comprehended the 3rd hex? Can't be that coincidental, right? Before we came in he was still cultivating outside. If he had comprehended it, why wouldn't he open it first? He definitely hasn't comprehended it. He's so relaxed because his physical body is freakish. You all saw it in the battle for the core palace of the 2nd Forbidden Area. He basically used his physical strength to defeat Lu Fingnan's 100-man team. He stopped. Qin Hao, who was strolling forward leisurely, attracted the attention of all the cultivators in the hall. Even Moling Takshu, Bai Yan, Qin Lin and the others who were sitting cross-legged at the front were shocked. They felt slightly comforted when they saw that Qin Hao had suddenly stopped before overtaking them. Clearly, Qin Hao was relying on his freakishly powerful fleshly body to withstand the terrifying pressure. Although he seemed relaxed, he still hadn't fully comprehended the 3rd hex. However, what? Before Moling Takshu, Bai Yan and the others could let out a sigh of relief, Qin Hao, who had stopped, suddenly looked at the silver ball he had taken from Lan Feng with a little surprise. With the silver ball as the core, the surrounding space suddenly began to ripple violently. All the fragments of the heavenly Tao that could not be seen or touched actually began to strangely flash with a faint light at this moment, quickly converging towards the silver ball. The Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core? The Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core. It must be the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core. Bai Yan and Moling Taksha blurted out in shock. What's the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core? Someone in the crowd could not help but ask. This is the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core? I've heard of it before. The Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core, as the name suggests, is the seed of the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit. Just like the connate Tao embryo that can resonate with the Great Tao, the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core can absorb the Tao nomological fragments between heaven and earth to grow. Cultivators can directly consume it and plant it in their dantian to obtain the Tao nomological fragments contained within. At the same time, the cultivator can also nourish the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit. There are many benefits. A knowledgeable cultivator in the crowd said in shock. Can be consumed and planted in the dantian? Qin Hao, who was still in shock and confusion, suddenly turned to look at the cultivator who spoke and asked. Of course. When the cultivator heard Qin Hao's question, he said with certainty, I just don't know what the level of the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit is. However, the lowest level is Dao Yuo Jinxian's level. Moling Takshu and Bai Yan's faces turned green. That's mine. Qin Hao, give it back to me. Lan Feng, who was struggling to move forward under the immense pressure, lost control of his emotions and roared at the top of his lungs. Lan Feng, what's going on? Tell me the truth. Bai Yan will uphold justice for you. Qin Hao, right? You'd better not act rashly before things are cleared up. Otherwise, I don't mind cutting your stomach open. Bai Yan, aren't you meddling too much? Blue Peak belongs to my Moling Snowwalk Core. It's not up to you to control it. Lan Feng, tell me what happened. I, Moling Takshu, will uphold justice for you. No one dares to bully the commander under me. Moling Takshu coldly snorted and said. Her gaze was even colder as she looked at Chen Hao. As soon as the two of them finished speaking, a fluctuation suddenly came from the restriction covered with rune Dao marks at the front. A figure leisurely walked out. Even Chen Hao could not help but look over. Amidst the milky white light emitted by the runes, it was as if an immortal had descended. Slender jade legs, a slender waist, a pair of proud peaks, snow-white skin, a peerlessly beautiful face, bright eyes and white teeth. Accompanied by her fluttering beautiful hair, she emanated a breathtaking beauty that was filled with a myriad of enchanting and amorous feelings. She was obviously charming to the bone, yet extremely pure and holy. Every single frown, smile and action of hers was in harmony with the Tao. Even though Chen Hao had been mentally prepared, he was still extremely shocked when he saw this woman. This is the innate Taoist embryo? It's really powerful. Chen Hao thought to himself. His keen perception could clearly sense the strength of this woman. Especially when she smiled and looked directly at him, Chen Hao could not help but narrow his eyes. It was not a seduction technique, but it was even better. Although Chen Hao clearly felt that his mind did not show the slightest sign of being bewitched, he still could not resist the woman's flirtatious aura. She was like a monarch descending to the world. The moment she appeared, she seized the heavens and earth and became the only light in the world. The Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core? Hu Meinyang's unexpected return interrupted the hostility caused by the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core. She stared at the silver ball blooming with light in Chen Hao's hand and gently opened her delicate lips. Her charming voice was like the sound of nature. It really is. Can you let Meinyang take a look? Hearing Hu Meinyang's words, everyone looked at Chen Hao. Moling Takshu and Bai Yen frowned slightly. Hu Meinyang's appearance was not something they were happy to see. Both of them were top geniuses and were subdued by Hu Meinyang's peerless demeanor and background, but in the face of this supreme treasure that could definitely cause a sensation in the vast universe galaxy, they could not simply give it away. Of course, the premise was that they knew that it was extremely difficult to obtain Hu Meinyang's favor. It could be said that there was no hope at all. Otherwise, any price would be worth it. It's mine. It's mine. Chen Hao, give it back to me. The brief silence was broken by the crazy Lan Feng who had slammed himself to death. Blood was coming out of his mouth, but he moved forward quickly, almost rolling and crawling. When this guy had obtained the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core, he had concluded that it was an incomparably miraculous treasure. This was because every time he cultivated, he could feel the fragments of the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core surging into his body. Now he had comprehended the limit of the third hex and was just a little bit away from completely comprehending and breaking through. With his aptitude, such speed was absolutely inconceivable. After all, apart from Hu Meinyang, who had a connate Tao manifestation, no one present had completely comprehended the third hex. It was because of this that he had let out a shrill and miserable scream after Chen Hao had taken away the fruit core. However, when he thought of how terrifying Chen Hao was, he could only let it go. However, just now, when the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core had been activated in an environment where Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core was densely packed with Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core, he could no longer control himself and completely disregarded the consequences. Didn't you see it? Chen Hao narrowed his eyes and said indifferently. Hu Meinyang's eyes suddenly lit up. She wanted to say something but stopped. Then she smiled. Unfortunately, Chen Hao turned his head and did not look at her again. This made Hu Meinyang feel as if she had hit the air. The other cultivators, including Moling Takshu and Bai Yen, were slightly surprised. Even though they knew that Chen Hao would definitely not let go of such a heaven-defying treasure easily, they did not expect him to reject it so cleanly without any hesitation. Chen Hao looked at Lan Feng and said, "Little brother Lan, are you stupid? You can't even keep a supreme-grade spirit treasure. Do you dare to eat this thing? I don't even dare to eat it. Didn't you hear someone say that he doesn't mind eating his guts out with me?" Chapter 706. I don't care. Give it to me. I've already apologized to you and you've already taken everything. This fruit core belongs to me. You can't take it. Or else. Or else what? Humans die in pursuit of wealth and birds die in pursuit of food. I remember you once told me that strength is the most important thing. The first time we were fighting and the second time you wanted to take revenge. Just based on this I can kill you. You're still not satisfied with using something to pay for your life? Qin Hao's eyes suddenly shone with a sharp light as he stared at Lan Feng. Even if he didn't know what it was, Qin Hao had no reason to return it to Lan Feng. If you respect me, I'll respect you tenfold. A drop of water should be repaid with a spring. Otherwise, of course, I'll repay it tenfold. You cut off one of my arms and I cut off the other. How can I make up for my loss? What a joke. Qin Hao was already merciful to Lan Feng. The first time he fought with this guy for the rootless spirit fruit, he was right. Strength was everything. The second time they met in the Forbidden City, this guy still wanted revenge. Based on this, Qin Hao could kill him without breaking the rules. All he did was take some treasures from him. Was that not merciful enough? Later he was merciful again. This time this guy really thought he was a good citizen. What about you? Get lost. If you keep blabbering, I'll chop you up. I'll let you know how many eyes Prince Qin has. Qin Hao said coldly. How can this be? Qin Shui, Long Ting and the others had just arrived. They saw the tense scene as soon as they entered. Originally they were not worried about Qin Hao. After all, his body that could evolve on its own was definitely strong. However, after seeing Moling Takshu, Bai Yan and the unfathomable Hu Meinyang, they were not so sure anymore. After all, although Qin Hao's body could evolve on its own, it could only evolve to the strongest state of each restriction. When the binding of the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing reached a critical point, it would stop. Don't expose yourselves. Don't come near. Move aside. I'll go over first. Long Ting said sternly. No, you don't go over too. Let's observe the situation first. If there's really no other way, then we'll just go all out. Qin Shui pulled Long Ting and said. Xiao Shui, I'm fine. I know you're strong, but you won't be able to withstand their numbers. Let's see what Hao does first, then we'll make a decision. Let's get closer and prepare for a surprise attack. Qin Shui said with a dignified expression and then looked at Pan Dong Lu and Pan Dong Sheng. Sister Shui, our lives belong to Big Brother Qin Hao. Fan Dongxing interrupted Qin Shui in a low but firm voice. Although flowing eastward did not speak, there was no fear in his eyes. Putting aside the fact that Qin Hao had saved their lives, even if he hadn't, they were well aware of how Qin Hao had treated them in the past 2 years. There was no reason to retreat at this time. Moreover, the more he interacted with them, the more he realized that Qin Hao and the others were not simple. Not to mention anything else, just Qin Shui's name was officially Qin Xiaobai, which was very shocking. Also, Venerable Han Mei, Venerable Yunwei and the sisters were not from the same army, but they were able to gather together in the sect ruins, which was even more incredible. Moreover, they also knew that the 3 immortals who had opened many of the forbidden areas of the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing were also Qin Hao's Dao companions. However, they had already changed their appearances and were enduring a huge pressure to quietly cover the crowd. Get lost, I told you to get lost, didn't you hear me? Get out. Qin Hao pointed at Lan Feng's nose and then pointed at the exit and said angrily. The others did not understand, but Qin Hao's gaze towards the exit and his words made Qin Shui and the others understand. But at this moment they did not obey Qin Hao. How arrogant. Do you know how precious this Dao manifestation immortal fruit core is? Brother Lan Feng just had a conflict with you over the treasure and you want to kill him? If you know what's good for you, hand over the Dao manifestation immortal fruit. Get out of here. Otherwise, I don't mind upholding justice for Brother Lan Feng and letting you bleed. Give it to me. Bai Yan took a step forward and walked in front of Lan Feng, releasing an extremely powerful aura as he stared coldly at Qin Hao. Bai Yan, I've said before that Lan Feng is a member of my army and so is Qin Hao. This matter should naturally be handled by me. Qin Hao, give it to me. Moling Takshu's aura instantly soared and she also took a step forward and stood in front of Qin Hao, ordering him around in a condescending manner. This was already a flea on a monk's head. Such a far-fetched and overbearing reason was nothing more than wanting to obtain the Dao manifestation immortal fruit core. When everyone saw this scene, they could only sympathize with Lan Feng and Qin Hao. No matter what, the 2 of them would not be able to keep this treasure. However, everyone present had already seen Qin Hao's freakish strength under the enormous pressure just now, and they had more or less heard about the terrifying combat strength that Qin Hao had displayed on the first 2 levels. Therefore no one could be sure what Qin Hao would do. Brother Moling, Brother Bai Meinyang has a connate Taoist embryo, and this Dao manifestation immortal fruit core is very important to Meinyang. Of course Meinyang will not get it for free. No matter who obtains it, Main Yang will try to give you satisfactory conditions in exchange. How about it? Of course, if you don't agree, then Main Yang can also interfere. This thing is very important to Main Yang. Main Yang's voice was still as melodious as the sounds of nature, but the content of her words had completely changed, revealing a fox's tail. His words were better than any song. She took care of Moling Takshu and Bai Yan's pride, and also showed her determination and strength to obtain the Tao manifestation immortal fruit core. Upon hearing this, Qin Hao was furious. Fuck, a woman's heart was the most vicious. As expected, she was concerned about Moling Takshu and Bai Yan's background and looked down on Qin Hao. It was as if the Tao manifestation immortal fruit core was already something that belonged to Moling Takshu or Bai Yan. In front of such a heaven-defying treasure, Main Yang no longer concealed her determination to obtain it. She, who had completely comprehended the third hex, had already entered the interior of the palace and begun to break through and comprehend it. The reason she had come out was because she had heard the commotion outside. If she could obtain the Tao manifestation immortal fruit core, even if it was the lowest grade one, it would complement her, and her cultivation and comprehension speed would be astonishingly increased. Although she felt that Qin Hao was not simple, she did not think that Qin Hao could contend with Moling Takshu and Bai Yan. She did not care about people like Qin Hao who did not have a background. Qin Hao wanted to fly into a rage immediately, but when he sensed the auras of the three people as well as Qin Hao and the others who had surrounded him, he could only endure it for now. He looked at Moling Takshu and then at Bai Yan as if hesitating about who to give it to. However, Bai Yan and Moling Takshu were not looking at him at this moment. Instead, they frowned and looked at Main Yang, who had spoken in a domineering manner. After a slight hesitation, Moling Takshu said first, "Since Miss Hu has said so, I will not refuse you. Miss Hu, since you like it, I'll get it for you. As for compensation, we can discuss it." Bai Yan smiled slightly, looking as if he had Moling Takshu under control. "Then how will you compensate me? How about this? Let's not talk nonsense. I can't give this to you for free. If you insist on snatching it, I'll eat it and bite it to pieces." "Bite it to pieces? Why don't you try biting it? What do you think the immortal fruit core is? Idiot." Bai Yan said disdainfully. Chapter 707. Qin Hao's face darkened as he cursed in his heart. If it was just Bai Yan, he would have slapped him long ago. Similarly, if Qin Shui and the others were not here, Qin Hao would definitely fly into a rage. However, he could only temporarily suppress his anger and said, "Then who should I give it to? As long as I hand over the immortal fruit core, can you guarantee my safety? Give it to me. I, Moling Takshu, guarantee your safety. Whoever dares to touch you will be touching me. What's the point? Moling Takshu, I think it's better for us to fight it out and decide who it belongs to." Bai Yan said disdainfully. "Do you think I'm afraid of you? Do you really think you can defeat me just because you're ranked 9th? Come on." Boom. Moling Takshu said sternly. Under the huge pressure, a peerlessly fierce aura bloomed around him. Bai Yan snorted coldly as his aura suddenly soared. At this moment, Qinlin suddenly frowned and shouted, "Brother Moling, you mustn't." "Qinlin, what are you doing?" Moling Takshu rebuked angrily. "Brother Moling, Brother Bai Yan, don't underestimate this boy Qin Hao. He's very strong and he has no intention of handing over the Tao manifestation immortal fruit core. Look at him, where's the slightest bit of fear? He's only doing this because he wants to reap the benefits of both of you fighting each other. Get out of the way. Do you think we're idiots who can't tell?" Bai Yan said disdainfully, "He's just an ant. Our fight is to snatch. Give it to me." What surprised Qin Hao was that Bai Yan and Moling Takshu were not idiots. Perhaps it was because of Qin Lin's reminder that Bai Yan charged toward him at lightning speed. Clearly he wanted to snatch the Tao manifestation immortal fruit core first. However, Qin Hao did not panic at all. He did not even move. How arrogant. Clang. The sword on Moling Takshu's back suddenly shot out. A cold sword light accompanied by a terrifying immortal sword intent swept through the world in an instant. One sword shot towards Bai Yan, while the other hand contained a mysterious and ancient aura as it grabbed towards Qin Hao. Although the surrounding cultivators knew that the battle between Moling Takshu and Bai Yan would be exceptionally terrifying, they did not expect that the aura released by the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing would be so frightening right from the start. Frightened, they retreated one after another. Even an expert like Qin Lin felt his hair stand on end and took a few steps back. Bai Yan clearly knew that Moling Takshu would not let him do as he wished. The hand that reached for Chen Hao was just a feint. The moment Moling Takshu's sword arrived, a resplendent saber light suddenly soared into the sky. All of his power was concentrated on the heavy saber. Ding ding ding. Rumble. Moling Takshu originally wanted to kill two birds with one stone, but he did not expect Bai Yan to be so sinister. The violent energy made him retreat a few steps. He waved his sword with all his strength to block, but he was still shaken to the point that his qi and blood were in turmoil. He was at a disadvantage. However, before Moling Takshu could regain his composure, a scream exploded from Bai Yan's roar. Moling Takshu, who saw this scene at close range, felt his hair stand on end. All the onlookers gasped and widened their eyes. They could not believe what they were seeing. Even Hu Mainyang, who was indifferent and waiting to reap the fruits of others' labor, narrowed her eyes. No one expected. Only Qin Lin, who had come into contact with Chen Hao, had a premonition. However, he did not expect Chen Hao to be so daring. Puff. The cold silver sword light was like a shooting star that streaked across the sky. It was extremely fast, ruthless, and unbelievably sharp. It pierced through Bai Yan's shoulder in an extremely tricky manner. Chen Hao, who wanted to kill Bai Yan with one strike, had to admit that Bai Yan, who was ranked 9th in the Divine Temple, had a reaction speed that exceeded his expectations. He actually managed to twist his body in the nick of time to avoid the fatal blow. At the same time, he frantically withdrew his saber, changed direction, changed hands, and chopped with all his might. It was done in one go without any hesitation. This was the only way to save his life. Chen Hao's sword had pierced through Bai Yan's shoulder. If he wanted to slash Bai Yan horizontally, he would definitely not be able to avoid Bai Yan's saber, which was enough to split Chen Hao in half. He was trading his life for his life. Everyone was shocked by this scene. They were shocked by Chen Hao's silent sneak attack and terrifying strength. They were even more shocked by Chen Hao's daring. That was definitely a sneak attack that would kill in one strike. Not to mention whether Chen Hao had the strength to kill Bai Yan. Even if he did, he should not have dared to kill Bai Yan. Bai Yan and Moling Takshu had openly bullied Chen Hao and said that he would not hand over the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core. It was not a bad idea to kill him. Although it was against morality, fighting for treasures was based on strength. Just like what Chen Hao had said to Lan Feng, treasures arouse the envy of others. Without sufficient cultivation, one could only hand over the treasure if they encountered a cultivator who did not care about face and morality. Otherwise they would be killed. Strength was everything. To put it bluntly, if Chen Hao was killed because of the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core, Bai Yan and Moling Takshu would at most be looked down upon by righteous people. It was not a big deal. How many righteous people were there in this world? It was not 100%, but 90% of people, as long as they had the strength, would make a move when they saw a heaven-defying treasure like the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core. It was also because of this that even Hu Mainyang had revealed her foxtail. However, if it was flipped around, it was a completely different concept. There was no other reason than the background of Bai Yan, Moling Takshu, and Hu Mainyang. Who would dare to kill them? The reason why Hu Mainyang did not make a move and even agreed to compensate the two of them in exchange for the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core was that she did not want to completely offend Moling Takshu and Bai Yan. Otherwise, given her strength, it would not be a problem to directly seize it. However, Chen Hao, a nobody with no background, dared to kill Bai Yan. If Bai Yan died once he stepped out of the primitive mystic realm, there would be no place for Chen Hao in this world. In fact, everyone related to Chen Hao would be consigned to eternal damnation. Who would have thought that Chen Hao would be so crazy? So daring? Just as everyone was in a daze, the battle of life and death had already come to an end. Chen Hao's cold voice sounded as if he had transformed into a demon. The scene was silent as everyone stared blankly at the unbelievable scene before them. Chen Hao grabbed Chen Hao's treasured saber with his bare hands. The sharp blade, which contained Bai Yan's near-death energy, was actually unable to split open Chen Hao's palm. Although it penetrated deep into his flesh and bones, Chen Hao grabbed it firmly. Chen Hao's hand was bleeding profusely. "You can die now. Remember not to be arrogant in front of me in your next life." Pooh. At this moment, Chen Hao's cold voice sounded as he slashed horizontally with his sword. The arrogant Bai Yan's eyes were filled with fear and unwillingness. He stared as if he did not believe that this was his fate. He did not believe that someone would dare to kill him. But everything was set in stone. He could clearly feel the cold treasured sword that had pierced through his right hand, slashing across his heart and chest. Dare to kill me, my Bai family. Qin Hao's bloody hand that was holding Bai Yan's treasured saber suddenly snatched it away and threw it away. Then he slapped Bai Yan's head. The upper half of Bai Yan's body instantly fell to the ground. Bai Yan wanted to continue speaking, but the gurgling blood blocked his voice. However, since his body had been cut in half, it was impossible for him to die so quickly. His eyes, which were gushing with blood, stared at Qin Hao with incomparable hatred. Bai family, I dare to kill the king of hell. At this moment Qin Hao's handsome face was filled with a cold and fierce aura, and the words he spoke were arrogant to the point of being insufferably arrogant. However, his words were not as frightening as his actions. Bang! Qin Hao's feet surged with waves of runes as he stomped on Bai Yan's head. Like a watermelon, brain matter and blood splattered everywhere. Obviously, this was not only stomping on the head but also the destruction of the body and soul. When Qin Hao said those words and did this action, his eyes stared straight at Moling Takshu, who was holding her sword in a daze. He looked as if he would kill any god or devil that blocked his way. Deng deng deng. Moling Takshu was actually affected by Qin Hao's aura and could not help but take a few steps back. At this moment, everyone was as silent as cicadas in winter. Qin Shui Long Ting, the sisters Senior Immortal Yunwei Fan Donglu and Fan Dongxing were all scared silly. Even Senior Immortal Han Mei, who had an abnormality, looked straight at Qin Hao with a dazed expression. You dare to kill Bai Yan? Moling Takshu's face was gloomy, but her voice was trembling as she stared at Qin Hao. So what if I killed him? He's just an ant. I can kill him with one hand. Qin Hao disdainfully said what Bai Yan had just said. It was indeed one hand, but it was one that was almost crippled. However, no one denied Qin Hao's words at this moment. Using his flesh and blood to block Bai Yan's dying strike was really too shocking. However, Qin Hao knew that what he did was far from enough. While speaking, Qin Hao casually picked up Bai Yan's saber while everyone was still in a daze. This was an ancient supreme-grade spirit treasure saber. I hate shameless people the most. Since you want me to kill, then. When Qin Hao said then, the aura around his body suddenly erupted. Moling Takshu panicked and suddenly raised her sword, ready to meet him. Whoosh. Whoosh 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 whoosh. At this moment Qin Hao twisted his body, twisted his waist and waved his arm. His whole body was like a divine bow that was pulled into a full moon. He threw out the saber in his hand as fast as lightning. The cold saber turned into an invincible wind-fire wheel and flew out at a terrifying speed. The pressure of the true origin contained in it was not strong in the eyes of Moling Takshu and Hu Meinyang. However, the sound of the air breaking caused by the high-speed rotation made Moling Takshu, who bore the brunt of it, to gather 100% of her strength. However, the saber that seemed to fly towards Moling Takshu drew a beautiful arc and turned towards the pale-faced Qin Lin, who had just spoken to warn Moling Takshu and Bai Yan. Ah! Qin Lin, who was not prepared, exclaimed. He felt a warmth in his pants. He wanted to run, but his body did not listen to him. He was so scared that he peed. Go to hell. Poof. Qin Hao's words after then were heard at the same time as the sound of the saber's spinning blade hitting Qin Lin's head. Chapter 708. Whoosh. Whoosh. Qin Lin's head was cut in half vertically with the center of his eyebrows as the axis. Brain matter, blood, minced meat and bone fragments flew everywhere. After the high-speed rotating saber cut open Qin Lin's head, it actually circled around and flew back to Qin Hao's hand in a beautiful trajectory. It was bloody, cruel and horrifying. How did he do it? How is it possible to control it like that? Everyone present was an Earth celestial stage expert. If it were any other time it would be no problem for them to do this. But it was different now. Under the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing, among everyone present, only Hu Meinyang had fully comprehended the 3rd restriction. Although her magic power and divine thought had recovered by nearly 30%, the heavenly law was incomplete. She couldn't even fly or open a storage ring, let alone control it perfectly. However, Qin Hao was actually able to use the treasured saber to such an exquisite level. Hu Meinyang's pupils constricted. She, who had an innate Taoist embryo, was close to the great Tao and was extremely sensitive to Taoist laws. However, at this moment even she was shocked by Qin Hao's seemingly casual move that could kill people as easily as cutting vegetables. That was definitely not a Taoist rune, but a perfect combination of a wisp of divine thought and the power of the saber's rotation. Not to mention anything else, just calculating the force and direction of the rotation of the saber was definitely not something an ordinary person could do. At least Hu Meinyang was not confident at all. If you think you can kill me, you can do it. I've never held grudges. If there's a grudge, I'll take revenge on the spot. This primitive mystic realm has been around for at least hundreds or even thousands of years. Idiots who rely on their fathers. Oh, they rely on their families and sections. Don't come in front of me. If you provoke me, I'll kill you. Qin Hao held the sword in one hand and the saber in the other. His black eyes were as bright as stars, emitting a soul-stirring murderous aura as he looked down on the crowd. Everyone who met his gaze shuddered and avoided him. Qin Hao walked toward Moling Taxia step by step. His body was covered in blood, and the blade of the ancient supreme-grade spiritual treasure shone with a cold light. With every step he took, the murderous aura around him increased. What do you want? Moling Taxia had experienced great storms and countless cruel battles. She had been defeated and killed many geniuses. However, at this moment she was frightened by Qin Hao's madness and ruthlessness. She could not help but retreat in fear. She was afraid even before the battle started. This wasn't because he was cowardly, but because Qin Hao's madness that completely disregarded everything and his formidable strength had completely intimidated him. In the past, after he became famous, who would dare to kill him? What he had to face was, at best, a fair challenge between genius disciples, or an explicit duel to the death. Whether he was arrogant and despotic or whether he went too far, behind him was one of the top 10 sects of vast universe galaxy. The Eternal Life sect was his most solid backing. No one dared to kill him so easily. Just like the unfathomable Hu Meinyang, she had the strength to suppress and vie with him, but she still had to be wary of his background and avoid offending him. But Qin Hao was a complete lunatic. Bai Yan's background was not any worse than his, but Qin Hao had mercilessly killed him with a single sword strike. Although it was an unexpected sneak attack, the abnormal body and cold-bloodedness that Qin Hao displayed made Moling Taxia understand that under the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing, he was not Qin Hao's match. And Qin Hao's terrifying ability to kill someone with a toss of his blade made him even more certain. Leave behind everything you have and get out. Otherwise, I don't mind trampling an ant to death. Qin Hao said coldly. You, don't fucking talk nonsense. Qin Hao took another step forward. Moling Taxia was ashamed and angry at the same time. He looked at the surrounding cultivators in his team and roared, all of you attack. Kill him. Who dares? Qin Hao suddenly shouted these 2 words like a thunderclap. He held his treasured blade horizontally in front of him and said, although I haven't had much contact with scum like you, I know your character. Who would work for you and be cannon fodder? Of course all of you can come at me together. What do I have to fear? If one comes, I'll kill one. If a pair comes, I'll kill a pair. Wherever Qin Hao pointed his treasured blade, the cultivators who did not dare to move, retreated one after another under Qin Hao's oppressive aura. The people present were not idiots. Qin Hao was a killing god who killed without blinking. He even dared to kill Bai Yan. What else did he not dare to do? This was no longer as simple as fighting for treasures. It was a fight to the death. Who could stop him? Anyone who went up would be cannon fodder. They had stepped into the primitive mystic realm for cultivation, ancient Dharma treasures, spirit herbs and inheritances. They were not seeking death. Qin Hao, brother Qin, right? You have already killed 2 people, especially Bai Yan, who is the #1 genius of the Bai family. Can you give Meinyang some face and let this matter rest? Hu Meinyang's figure flashed as the surrounding heavenly Tao laws and heaven and earth energy shook. She appeared between Qin Hao and Moling Taxia like a ghost. She smiled sweetly and her eyes were bright as she stared at Qin Hao, who was filled with killing intent. Her voice was still that seductive yet ethereal voice. Qin Hao frowned slightly. This woman looked calm and composed. However, her aura that was compatible with the Tao and the ghostly speed she had just displayed made Qin Hao cautious. Qin Hao could not tell how strong she was at all. This was also the thing that Qin Hao was most worried about. However, if Qin Hao had not maintained his composure, he would have slapped her long ago. Her words sounded better than singing. She was a slut. Miss Hu, let's kill this demon together. The Tao manifestation immortal fruit core is yours. I, Moling Takshu, represent the Eternal Life sect and will advance and retreat together with the Misty Rain Tower. Moling Takshu, who was aggrieved, frightened, and even more furious, immediately spoke with resentment when he saw Yang stand up for him. He knew very well that if he did not kill Chen Hao today, even if he could escape, it would be the greatest humiliation of his life. Chen Hao was destined to die. He did not doubt this at all. No one could casually kill Chen Hao. Regardless of whether it was in accordance with the rules, the Bai family would definitely bury Chen Hao with him. However, that was something that would happen after they left the primitive mystic realm. Just as Chen Hao had said, the primitive mystic realm would last for at least hundreds or thousands of years. If he was targeted by such a crazy and ruthless person, wouldn't he have to hide like a mouse before he completely comprehended the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing? Once that really happened, he, Moling Takshu, would be completely crippled. His Tao heart would be crippled and his luck would stop. It would be difficult for him to climb up the ranks of the top experts of the human race. The only way was to kill Chen Hao. He had to kill Chen Hao at all costs. Therefore he made such a heavy promise without even thinking about it. He, the #1 genius disciple of the Eternal Life sect, would definitely become the sect master of the Eternal Life sect in the future as long as there were no accidents. Needless to say, Yang, who had an innate Tao embryo, was even more so. As the saintess of the Misty Rain Tower, she was the only candidate for the position of Tower Master. Moreover, Yang had already obtained the inheritance of the founder of the Misty Rain Tower and cultivated the #1 absolute art of the Misty Rain Tower, the Red Dust Heart Sutra. She would definitely become the most brilliant Tower Master in the history of the Misty Rain Tower. She would be on par with the founder of the Misty Rain Tower and might even be able to recreate the former glory of the Misty Rain Tower. Moling Takshu's promise was equivalent to the alliance of the 2 top forces in the vast universe galaxy in the future, with the Misty Rain Tower as the leader. When Yang heard Moling Takshu's words, her pair of bright eyes instantly bloomed with 7-colored rays of light. Everyone was shocked to find that her gaze, which was like a 7-colored light pillar, was directly connected to Chen Hao's eyes. Huff, a cool breeze suddenly appeared in this strangely quiet space. Yang's fine black hair fluttered in the wind. Her Taoist robe fluttered. Her entire being seemed to have transformed into the most brilliant star in the world. Her graceful and exquisite body and her devastatingly beautiful face made everyone unable to move their eyes away from her. The world suddenly lost its color and their minds suddenly went blank. There was only her, only her. At this moment she was the master of this world, a goddess, a banished immortal. Not to mention Chen Hao, who bore the brunt of it. All the surrounding cultivators, regardless of gender, had their eyes fixed as if they had lost their souls. They were awed by Yang's peerless demeanor. Those with weaker willpower even knelt down on the ground to worship her. This is not good. Long Ting, the sisters and the others who were hiding in the crowd, also lost their minds and forgot everything. They could only stare blankly at Yang. Only Qin Shui struggled for a moment. The moment her eyes regained their clarity, she was about to rush out. However, at this moment Han Mei Immortal, who had always been by her side, suddenly reached out and held her tightly. "Don't worry, Ting. Howard can still bear it." Han Mei Immortal lowered her voice and whispered in Qin Shui's ear. "Mother, look carefully." Han Mei Immortal knew that Qin Shui didn't believe her words. After all, the current her, except for her higher realm, had been surpassed by Qin Shui in all aspects. When Qin Shui heard her mother's words, she looked at Chen Hao in surprise. What surprised her was that the 7-colored light that seemed to connect to Chen Hao's eyes actually froze in front of Chen Hao's eyelids. Chen Hao's dark and deep eyes were still clear. Although there was no fluctuation of color, it seemed to emit a kind of colorless, formless, and extremely pure will, blocking the 7-colored light from invading. Chen Hao's black hair fluttered in the wind, as did his clothes. His handsome face was cold and solemn, and his eyes were as firm as iron. Holding the treasured saber and sword horizontally, he still emitted a shocking murderous aura. However, at this moment, it was completely covered by Chen Hao's figure, which was as straight as a mountain and as straight as a sword, and the soaring essence Qi emitted. "Brother Moling, what are you waiting for?" After a full minute, Yang finally couldn't help but remind him while she was shocked in her heart. She thought that she could take Chen Hao by surprise and use the Red Dust Heart Sutra to intimidate him. This was the first time she had used the Red Dust Heart Sutra since she had cultivated it. She believed that in the world no one in the Earth celestial stage could resist it. However, what she didn't expect was that Qin Hao, who didn't have any background and only had a little bit of talent, had an unbelievably strong state of mind, will and cultivation. After a full minute she could only stabilize his mind, but she couldn't break through it. Chapter 709. If it weren't for the surrounding cultivators who were as strong as Moling Takshu, Hu Mainyong would have doubted if the Red Dust Heart Sutra was really as powerful as the ancestral master said. This was just the effect of the Red Dust Heart Sutra's aura. Even the powerful Moling Takshu was affected, which undoubtedly explained how terrifying the Red Dust Heart Sutra was. However, Qin Hao, who bore the brunt of it, was not lost. The only explanation was that Qin Hao's will and state of mind far exceeded his own realm. This made Hu Mainyong feel a great threat. Previously she didn't put Qin Hao in her eyes at all. Although she sensed that Qin Hao was not simple and might not be inferior to Moling Takshu and Bai Yan, she didn't expect him to be strong to this extent. Of course, even if he was stronger than Moling Takshu and Bai Yan, a cultivator without any powerful background would not enter her eyes. As the saintess of the Misty Rain House, she clearly knew what her mission was. The people she came in contact with were all outstanding young talents. Each of them was a monstrous genius of the younger generation. At the same time, each of them also had a powerful background. This was the reason why the Misty Rain House could become a top force in the vast universe galaxy. Although it was not the top 10 forces in the vast universe galaxy, no force dared to provoke it. She was confident that she could restore the Misty Rain House and even surpass the glory of the founding ancestral master, surpassing the top 10 sects. This was the ambition under her charming appearance. It was also the reason why she completely ignored Qin Hao in the beginning. However, Qin Hao suddenly displayed arrogance, coldness, madness and strength. She couldn't help but pay attention to him. Ambushing and killing Bai Yan was already against universal condemnation and couldn't be measured by common sense. Killing Qin Hao with a flying knife was even more insolent. If that was all, Hu Mainyong might have bided her time and relied on her valiant strength to negotiate with Qin Hao in exchange for the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core. She wouldn't have stood out forcefully because it didn't conform to the Misty Rain House's smooth and slicked style. However, Qin Hao actually forced Moling Takshu to leave behind all her Dharma treasures and then scram. What kind of concept was this? Such a domineering and insufferably arrogant existence made Hu Mainyong feel a sense of sympathy. She was certain that even if Qin Hao did not dare to make a move against her this time, he would probably still take it to heart because of her previous disdain for him. To be exact, it was as if she had disregarded air. This was the common characteristic of all geniuses. In other words, they were unyielding. Therefore she wanted to conquer. However, in the beginning she had only relied on her natural charm, peerless appearance and the natural charm of the secular Heart Sutra to subdue Qin Hao with her peerless demeanor. Unfortunately, when she said on account of Mainyong's face, even though Qin Hao didn't say anything, she saw disdain and contempt in Qin Hao's eyes. This was the reason why she didn't hesitate to go against the Misty Rain Pavilion's principle of doing things and forcefully utilize the secular Heart Sutra to confuse and deter Qin Hao. Otherwise, it would be utterly impossible for her to peacefully obtain the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core from Qin Hao. Moreover, it would leave behind latent dangers. Unfortunately, she'd utilized the secular Heart Sutra with all her might, yet she was actually unable to take Qin Hao down, and this was what truly horrified her. Then what was there to hesitate about? Kill. Die. Hu Mainyong spoke in a light voice. Brother Moling, what are you waiting for? It was extremely sudden and it instantly caused Moling Takshu to sober up. He shouted loudly and charged forward with his sword raised. His rumble. Qin Shui, who'd already sobered up and was ready for battle since a long time ago, and Long Ting, who'd been forcefully awoken by Qin Shui, suddenly shot out at this moment. Qin Shui had become one with her sword, causing Destruction Sword Insight to surge like a river, and the direction she pointed with her sword was even swift and fierce. Shockingly, she'd executed the solitary sword technique that Qin Hao had passed down to her a long time ago. She didn't use any moves until she found a flaw. The solitary sword technique was the only ultimate technique that Qin Shui hadn't abandoned along with the advancement of her cultivation. Because no matter if it was an ultimate technique or an ultimate technique that was condensed into profound talisman markings, it was impossible to achieve perfection in the absolute sense. On the other hand, even though the solitary sword technique was named after the sword, it surpassed the sword. Its true essence was to see through falsehood, find the flaw, and destroy it with no moves. It could be said that this was a type of sublimation of combat principles, and since she'd started cultivating it until now, it had already fused into Qin Shui's instinctive consciousness. However, after her cultivation advanced, it wouldn't be displayed on the surface of her moves. At this moment, Qin Shui had finally displayed her sword once more under the 9 seals of immortality. It was swift, ruthless, crafty, swift, fierce, and traceless. It was clearly not strong, yet it caused the surrounding cultivators who'd recovered from Moling Takshi's shout to instinctively feel their hair stand on end. At the same time, what was even more shocking was not Qin Shui but Long Ting. The instant Long Ting's seemingly graceful and delicate body erupted, she directly stomped on the incomparably hard rocky ground, causing rubble to swirl in the air. What was even more terrifying was that the majestic blood qi that Long Ting released in that instant was actually as heavy as a mountain. Her originally snowy skin had turned golden yellow. She was completely unarmed, but the speed, pressure, and the fists that instantly shot toward Moling Takshu like a cannonball was so powerful that it seemed to be able to shatter the void. She directly inserted herself between Moling Takshu and Qin Hao. At this moment, everyone was stupefied. Especially those cultivators who'd seen Qin Hao and the others in the previous 2 forbidden zones. They simply didn't dare to believe that this was real. All along, it had been Qin Hao alone who'd been dazzling, shining with boundless radiance. Even though Long Ting had revealed a bit of her edge, it wasn't to the extent where it was shocking. However, at this moment, regardless of whether it was the concealed Qin Xiaobai or Long Ting, the aura and power that they'd revealed in that instant far exceeded everyone's expectations. However, what everyone didn't know was that it wasn't over yet. Just as they were shocked by Long Ting's and Qin Shui's valiance, 2 identical and charming sisters appeared behind Moling Takshu with the same speed, the same expression, and the same aura. However, their postures were completely symmetrical and they were as fast as ghosts. There was no need to think too much about it. Everyone understood that this pair of sisters had completely merged into one at this moment. Any one of them was like an arm to the other. It was not just telepathy, but body and mind as one, strength as one. Moling Takshu sensed the sudden attacks coming from all directions. In his horror, he abandoned all thoughts of life and death. As if a small universe had exploded, his sword momentum didn't change, and the strength around him instantly soared by a level. At this moment, facing an unprecedented life-or-death crisis, he became calmer and made the most correct choice. Even if he died, he would slay Qin Hao with his sword. It was a pity. How is this possible? At the same time, Hu Mainyang was also shocked by the sudden appearance of Long Ting, Qin Shui, and the sisters. She knew that Qin Hao had accomplices, but even if she had 10 heads, she would never have thought that unknown accomplices would be so strong. Moreover, there was more than one of them. This situation caused her to lose her composure, which she hadn't lost since the beginning. She knew very well that even if Moling Takshu was stronger than the 4 of them individually, he wouldn't be able to deal with the enemies from all sides. As for herself, it was easy to pin down Qin Hao, but it was extremely difficult to intimidate him. She couldn't divert her attention to battle. Otherwise, Qin Hao would immediately be freed. In other words, while she pinned down Qin Hao, she wouldn't be able to do anything herself. Once Moling Takshu died, it would be time for the 4 girls to swing their swords at her. No matter how strong she was, she wouldn't have any chance of winning against the siege of Qin Hao and the 4 girls. She might even die if she wasn't careful. Although she was unwilling, she knew that she couldn't hesitate. Otherwise, it would be out of her control. Hiss. There will be. Hu Mainyang pulled herself out, turned around, and fled out of the palace as fast as lightning. At the same time, her charming voice rang out. Although she was frustrated, she couldn't lose the elegance of the Misty Rain House's saintess. However, she had only said 3 words, swoosh. The moment Hu Mainyang withdrew the Red Dust Heart Sutra and suddenly fled, Qin Hao didn't hesitate to throw his sword and saber at her. However, it was too hasty at the moment. Whether it was his strength or control, he couldn't reach the peak state. However, Qin Hao didn't intend to shoot it down. It was enough to stop Hu Mainyang for a moment. No matter how fast she fled, could she be faster than the flying sword and saber? Therefore, All the cultivators who turned to look at the fleeing Hu Mainyang saw a scene that shocked them to the extreme. The rotating sword and saber drew two beautiful trajectories in front of Hu Mainyang to kill her. Hu Mainyang's voice came to an abrupt stop. With a shout, she struck out with her palms. Whether it was the angle, the strength, or the Tao law contained, they all displayed extremely terrifying energy. She easily sent the sword and saber flying, but her figure was destined to be forced to stop for a moment. "You motherfucker." It was also at that moment that Qin Hao rushed forward like a cannonball and kicked at Hu Mainyang. This kick was absolutely earth-shattering. What was even more shocking was Qin Hao's angry curses. This was the high and mighty saintess of the Misty Rain House. Humph. Hu Mainyang coldly snorted. She didn't even turn her head as she sent a palm strike behind her. In her opinion, not only was Qin Hao's kick useless, it would even allow her to borrow the force of his kick to escape even faster. However, bang. Ah! Hu Mainyang burst into a scream of horror, shame, and anger as she disappeared in the direction of the gate. Everyone could clearly see blood-red footprints appearing on Hu Mainyang's plump and seductive buttocks. "Qin Hao, just you wait. I, Hu Mainyang, will avenge today's humiliation no matter what." Hu Mainyang's voice was no longer coquettish. Instead, it was extremely cold. One could imagine what kind of anger made Hu Mainyang, who had always maintained a calm and serene demeanor, lose her composure. Except for Hu Mainyang, no one knew how Qin Hao's seemingly useless kick broke the force of Hu Mainyang's palm and landed on her buttocks. Everyone was a little dumbfounded, but more of them were horrified by Qin Hao's performance. Today's incident was bound to cause a sensation in the entire cultivation world. Who would have thought that the saintess of the Misty Rain House, who was born charming and had an innate Taoist embryo, would be forced to flee by Qin Hao and even kicked on her buttocks? Qidian has launched a free Qidian Coins event for mobile users who download the Uni app. The event is as follows. During the event, new users who download the latest version of the Uni Android app will receive the following rewards. 1. Directly receive 200 Qidian Coins or choose to draw a grand prize of 10,000 Qidian Coins. 2. Users who download and install the Qidian Reading app for the first time through the Uni Android app will receive another 200 Qidian Coins. 3. Complete the Uni mission and more surprises await you. For more details, there is a promotional link on Qidian's homepage. http://www.qidian. Comploy 2013065 Uni. BSPX Proud Heavens results are very poor. I hope that readers who have not subscribed before will participate in this event and receive Qidian Coins for free to support Proud Heavens subscription. Especially Chapter 97 Star Shaking Punch. Thank you. From today onwards there will be stable updates. Chapter 710. Qin Hao returned to the depths of the hall as if nothing had happened. At this time all the cultivators who turned to look at Qin Hao and Hu Mainyang, although they were not surprised, still sucked in a breath of cold air. Moling Taksha was decapitated. Qin Shui's sword pierced through his head. The sisters Ling Ninghuan's sword, stained with blood, cut off his neck. Ling Ninghu's sword pierced through her heart. Only Long Ting's right hand was bleeding and her face was pale. "Sister Ting, are you all right?" Qin Hao quickly walked over and took Moling Taksha's head from Qin Shui's sword. He threw it on the ground and stomped on it as if he had done something insignificant. At the same time he looked worriedly at Long Ting's bleeding hand and asked, "I'm fine, just a little tired." Long Ting said weakly, "If I had known I would have done it. Damn it, I only kicked that bitch once but you were injured," Qin Hao said without hiding anything. Everyone who heard this trembled. Kicking the saintess Hu Mainyang's butt and calling her a bitch, Qin Hao was probably the only person in the world who could do this. Everyone was sure that after stepping out of the primitive mystic realm, Qin Hao had no hope of survival. Killing Bai Yan, killing Moling Takshu and kicking Hu Mainyang, any one of them was fatal. Especially kicking Hu Mainyang's butt, not to mention Hu Mainyang would definitely not let it go. Just Hu Mainyang's army of genius admirers could drown Qin Hao. Hu Mainyang was in contact with super geniuses of the heavenly immortal stage from the temple. For the sake of pleasing Hu Mainyang, these geniuses would probably fight to be the first to ravage and kill Qin Hao. As for the four women, only Long Ting and others knew about her background and some information. As for Qin Shui, Ling Ninghuan and Ling Ninghu, no one knew their background, but they were all disciples of the temple. With Long Ting's background they obviously could not protect her. As for Qin Shui and the other two, no one knew. But it was basically certain that apart from the top 10 sects or powerful families like the Bai family, no one could protect them. Of course, this was what everyone present thought. Not long after, someone noticed the abnormality. The reason was simple. After this matter spread out, not a single temple disciple recognized Qin Shui and the sisters. It was not strange that no one recognized a division, and it was also acceptable for an army. But when several armies gathered and talked about Qin Xiaobai and the sisters, not a single temple disciple recognized them. What did this mean? Qin Shui and her sisters' identities were definitely not simple. Of course, this was a matter for the future. The unreasonable are afraid of the reckless, and the reckless are afraid of the reckless. Big brother, don't be rash. This kind of person is doomed to die. He can do anything. There's no need for us to take the risk and fight with him. Risk? With the four of us brothers together and a team of 500 people, how could we be afraid of him? If we give it up just like that, we, the four berserk dragons of the Holy Temple, might as well change our name to the four reptiles. Not bad. Big brother was right. It would have been fine if he hadn't encountered them, but since he had, there was no reason for him to back down. Second brother, you've always been cautious, but this time you're being too cautious. It's just a rumor. How can we, the four berserk dragons, be afraid before the battle? That's right, second brother. Although he killed Moling Takshu and Bai Yan and even humiliated and forced Miss Hu to leave, we also understood the situation at that time. That brat only relied on his strong physical body. Long Ting and his team also has a strong physical body. Although Qin Xiaobai and the two sisters are strong, they are nothing to the four of us. Now that we're at the 6th level of the Forbidden Zone, how much weaker is the advantage of our physical bodies compared to before? There's no need to be afraid. With the four of us working together, there's no need to fear anyone. That's right. Our Heavenly Dragon's 4 Elephants battle formation has been raised to perfection, and our understanding of the 9 restrictions is close to perfection. What's there to fear? Not only are we going to fight for the core palace, we're going to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. We're going to spread the name of the 4 berserk dragons. More importantly, second brother, don't forget that this kid has the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core and countless treasures. The Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core is a heaven-defying treasure. If the 4 of us obtain it, who in the temple can fight against us? This. Big brother, third brother, fourth brother. All right, it's settled then. Big brother waved his hand to stop the frowning and hesitating second brother. He had already steeled his heart to do it and firmly believed that this was an excellent opportunity for the 4 berserk dragons of the temple. Therefore he could only stop second brother from saying anything that would damage their morale. Alright, since all of you think it's fine, we'll do it. However, big brother, since we're going to do it, we can't be like those 2 idiots Moling Takshu and Bai Yan. We should do it. The resourceful second brother whispered to the other 3 for a moment. Although big brother, third brother and fourth brother firmly believed in the combat strength of the 4 of them working together, they finally agreed under second brother's insistence. After all, second brother's method might not be able to display their strength to the greatest extent, but it was safer. Soon, second brother gathered the group of 500 people. The 4 berserk dragons, they actually appeared here. I wonder if they dare to provoke Chen Hao and the others. Leader, who are the 4 berserk dragons? Are they powerful? Of course. They're powerful, but their family is even more powerful. They're one of the families in our vast universe galaxy that can contend with the 10 great sects, the Wan family. I don't know what secret technique their family has obtained, but every generation of direct descendants can produce quadruplet brothers. They come in groups, and the family head is jointly held by the 4 battery brothers. Although I don't know the details, it's rumored that the quadruplet brothers in their family share their wives. On the surface they share, but in reality they don't share. Cough cough, I'm sorry to say too much. The 4 berserk dragons are nicknames given by the people of our divine temple. They're called Soaring Dragon, Leaping Tiger, Wan Long, Wan Ting, Wan Hu, Wan Yu. Any one of the 4 is very strong, and they're all ranked within the top 50 in the Earth celestial stage. Top 50? Leader, that's not very high. They're not even as strong as Bai Yan and Moling Takshu. Their individual strength is not as good as Moling Takshu and Bai Yan, but if they work together, let alone Bai Yan and Moling Takshu, any one of the top 10, no, any 4 of them working together would not be a match for them. Can't be, right? Could it be that the four brothers have achieved the unity of body and mind and strength? Even so, I'm afraid it's impossible. It's more terrifying than what you think. The Wan family's quadruplets and the Wan family's ancestral battle formation, the heavenly dragon's four elephants, complement each other. It not only allows the four of them to achieve the unity of body and mind and strength, but also allows them to transform and create the heavenly dragon territory. Now even the 9 seals of celestial sealing have reached the 6th layer. Looking at them, I'm afraid they've been able to use it for a long time. Look, they've gone deep. Let's go and have a look. Chapter 7:11. It had been 3 years since Chen Hao killed Moling Takshu by Yen and kicked Hu Meinyang, the saintess of the Misty Rain House. Since then, Chen Hao and the girls had not encountered any threats. Their journey was smooth and everyone avoided them. As long as they were in the area where Chen Hao and the others appeared, no one dared to challenge them in the core palace. The bold were afraid of the reckless, and the reckless were afraid of the reckless, especially the powerful and reckless Chen Hao. He dared to kill Bai Yen and Moling Takshu, and even humiliate the saintess of the Misty Rain House. What else did he not dare to do? This battle deterred the world, and his fierce reputation spread far and wide. Without enough confidence, who dared to challenge him? Even the top powerhouses who knew where Chen Hao was avoided him directly. They would rather spend more time in other areas. Otherwise, they would not be able to get the core palace. Each level of the forbidden area was divided into many areas according to the area, and each area had a core palace. The further they went, the more cultivators gathered in each area. Originally, under normal circumstances, it was possible for the mysterious clan to start a war. But because the 9 great forbidden areas had been opened, the possibility of a war between different races was avoided prematurely. Because everyone wanted to comprehend and go deep into the core as soon as possible. After breaking through the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing, the core area was the final battlefield. On the 6th level, it was difficult for a team of dozens of people to get the smallest palace. From this, one could see how many cultivators there were. Today, the 6th level of the forbidden area finally appeared. Someone dared to challenge Chen Hao and the others. They were the 4 mad dragons of the Divine Temple, Wan Jialong and Hu Yu brothers, who were equally famous and domineering. Swish! As the 4 wild dragons took the lead and headed straight toward the core palace in the depths, countless cultivators in the surroundings stopped cultivating and got up one after another, following behind them with excited and expectant looks on their faces. The 4 mad dragons are so powerful. This nickname is not self-given, but a title given by the Divine Temple. Not to mention the Earth Celestial Stage, even among the disciples of the Divine Temple in the Heaven Celestial Stage, there are not many who can get this title. The 4 of them are inseparable. When the battle formation of the 4 symbols of the Sky Dragon is used, no one in the Earth Celestial Stage can defeat them. It is said that an ordinary cultivator at the initial stage of the Heavenly Celestial Stage cannot withstand the Heavenly Dragon territory of the 4 of them. It can't be. Even heavenly immortals can't do it? This is the truth. Our family has some ties with the Wan family. Before we entered the primitive secret area, their family had tested us with experts at the beginning stage of the Heavenly Celestial Stage. They were the winners. Hiss. The words of a disciple from the sanctum made the surrounding cultivators who wanted to watch the show gasp. Although he was talking about an ordinary cultivator at the initial stage of the Heaven Celestial Stage, it still shocked everyone. There was an insurmountable gap between the Heaven Celestial Stage and the Earth Celestial Stage. A genius at the peak of the later stage of the Earth Celestial Stage couldn't be compared with an ordinary cultivator at the initial stage of the Heaven Celestial Stage. Of the 3 realms of heaven, earth, man mortal, and heaven true immortal, they were only one step apart, but it was like heaven on earth. However, when the 4 berserk dragons of the Holy Temple joined forces, they actually had the strength to defeat an ordinary expert at the early stage of the Heaven Celestial Stage. This was absolutely heaven-defying. No wonder the 4 berserk dragons aren't afraid of Chen Hao and the others. Just wait and see. The 4 berserk dragons are called the 4 berserk dragons not only because of their strength but also because of their arrogance. In the sanctum they can do whatever they want. Even the top 10 geniuses at the Earth Celestial Stage have to avoid them. They are also ruthless people who dare to ignore the unspoken rules. Then wouldn't Chen Hao and the others be in trouble? Isn't that obvious? I don't think so, right? Just now we sensed the aura of Chen Hao and the others. Not to mention Chen Hao, Long Ting, Chen Xiaobai, and the sisters all have extremely powerful auras. Long Ting, Chen Shui, and the sisters had killed Moling Takshu, who was ranked 10th in the sanctum, with a single move. They were also very famous. Moreover, during this period, as more and more disciples from the sanctum met, everyone had some doubts about the identities of Chen Shui and the sisters. This was because until now no one had heard of the three of them in the sanctum. This was a little abnormal. Chen Shui didn't say anything. After all, she had changed her appearance and wasn't that outstanding. However, the sisters, who looked exactly the same although they had changed their appearance, they were rare existences. Even if they looked ordinary, they were still people who attracted attention. There was no reason why no one had heard of them. That's because you don't understand the combat power of the 4 berserk dragons when they join forces. Just wait and see. He's arrived here? A female disciple, who was sitting cross-legged in a corner and wearing a loose black robe, had an ordinary appearance but a powerful aura. She was awakened by the huge commotion and discussion on the main road. Her eyes became extremely lively, and her expression was extremely complicated. Her delicate body, which was hidden under the loose black robe, trembled slightly. She was obviously very emotional. After stepping into the primitive mystic realm, she had deliberately deviated from the route for some reason. She had taken a very long detour before she began to go deeper. Alone, he walked forward in solitude. In the primitive mystic realm, in the past 20 years, she had experienced many cruel fights. She had encountered many life and death situations. She had also gained a lot and improved greatly. But the biggest change was, 2 years ago she had learned that Chen Hao had killed Moling Takshu and Bai Yan. She had learned of the terrifying strength that Long Ting, Chen Xiaobai, and the beautiful sisters had displayed. She had guessed who Chen Xiaobai and the beautiful sisters were. Originally, she should have been very shocked, very unwilling, and very angry. But everything was different from what she had imagined. After hesitating for a few minutes, she took a deep breath and stood up. Her aura became even more restrained at this moment. She blended into the flow of people and walked in the opposite direction. She seemed out of place. Many people looked at her strangely. They did not understand why this female disciple was so different from the rest. Young cultivators had youthful and energetic hearts. Encountering such a peak battle that was about to happen, even if it meant delaying their cultivation, they would still go and take a look. But this female cultivator, who had completely concealed her true appearance, was far away. Her loose black Taoist robe and her lonely figure gave people a feeling of desolation. She walked further and further away until she stepped into the city. If Chen Hao saw this figure, he would most likely be able to recognize who it was at first glance. But the expression and aura of this figure would definitely make Chen Hao puzzled. Because this was something that Chen Hao would never have thought of. People would change. But very few people could change so much in a short period of time. Especially young people. Only with the passage of time, the baptism of time, the increase of experience, the richness of experience, could they gradually understand themselves. Lose their impetuosity and impulsiveness, see their true nature, see their true self. But she had undergone such a huge change in the short 20 years in the primitive mystic realm. Chen Hao would not have thought of such a change. Similarly, this female cultivator would not have thought of it herself. She was Bailey Ningbing. Everything was because of one person. A person who had died. A person who had been killed by Chen Hao. Moling Tashua. Chapter 7:12. In the past she had been as proud as a peacock, and any geniuses of the same age on the Wuji star were but ants in her eyes. As the most beloved granddaughter of the Wuji Demon Palace's palace master, Guan Nanchao, her knowledge and vision had long surpassed the Wuji star's vast universe. It was only when Dongfang Han, who possessed the undying and indestructible inheritance, appeared that she was moved. Of course, she was moved by the immortal laws, not Dongfang Han. If she could dual cultivate with Dongfang Han, she would definitely be able to quickly obtain the immortal laws that she desperately needed and soar into the sky. But she did not expect that Dongfang Han would die at the hands of Chen Hao. And Chen Hao had obtained the undying and indestructible inheritance. So she still held her head high and wanted Chen Hao to become her Tao companion. In her opinion, no one would reject her because she was the most outstanding person in the world. No matter if it was talent or looks, no one would reject her. But Chen Hao coldly rejected her. The proud peacock had never encountered such a situation before, and her self-esteem had suffered a severe blow. She swore that she would completely trample Chen Hao under her feet, make him regret, make him submit. But the result was that she was defeated by Chen Hao again and again. Every time she thought that she had surpassed Chen Hao, she was left in the dust again and again. Especially the last confrontation, which had almost shattered her confidence. After the appearance of the primitive mystic realm and obtaining information about Chen Hao, she wanted to use the powerful Moling Takshu to suppress, capture and humiliate Chen Hao. So she approached Moling Takshu and expressed her goodwill. However, what she did not expect was that even though she had always thought that she was clear about her own intentions and that she was a woman who would do anything to achieve her goals, when she approached Moling Takshu and wanted to have intimate contact with her, she felt a strong sense of disgust. She could not even accept a simple handshake or hug, much less intimate contact. Moreover, whenever Moling Takshu wanted to do something, the person she hated the most would appear in her mind, Chen Hao. That cold and disdainful gaze, that wicked and shameless smile, the humiliation towards her, especially the last time when he stripped her naked, that was a strange feeling. She hated him to the extreme, but it also made her heart unable to tolerate any man. Even if the other party was the incomparably powerful top genius Moling Takshu, she could not. Once, when Moling Takshu forcefully wanted to have intimate action with her, she impulsively gave her a big slap. This slap, it stunned Moling Takshu and also woke her. Moling Takshu originally thought that Bailey Ningbing, who had tacitly agreed to be his Dao companion in the future, was just shy. She was reluctant and there would definitely be no problem with some intimate contact. But he didn't expect Bailey Ningbing to be so determined. This made him incomparably angry. He even thought of the reason. Bailey Ningbing was using him to take revenge on Chen Hao. Otherwise, how could she not let him have a taste of the sweetness of being an honorary Dao companion? It was fine if she did not hand over her body. For any genius disciple, the stronger they were, the greater the benefits. But if she could not even do intimate things, then there was definitely a problem. This made Moling Taksha fly into a rage and she scolded Bailey Ningbing. And Bailey Ningbing also truly understood herself. That Chen Hao, who she hated to the point of madness and even had her mind twisted, had unknowingly taken over her heart. After falling out with Moling Takshu, she who had truly woken up chose to leave alone. In the primitive mystic realm, in 20 years she had thought a lot and had truly matured. She did not know her true nature, but at least she had a clearer understanding of herself. 2 years ago, when she obtained Moling Takshu and was killed by Chen Hao, she was shocked by Chen Hao's strength and madness. She also felt sorry for Moling Takshu, but that was it. Now she had come to a city's forbidden area. If it was in the past, even if she was not as strong, she would still take a look and at least know her enemy. But now she chose to stay away. The past was the past. There was no turning back, no turning back. Die, die. With the 4 berserk dragons attacking, you will definitely die. The valiant and high-spirited 4 berserk dragons walked in unison, as if they were stepping on the pulse of the world. Even though they did not deliberately release any aura, the profoundness of the 4 of them, as if they were one, gave off an unfathomable feeling. And in the group behind the 4 of them who wanted to watch, there was a cultivator in a black robe, carrying a large bag, with a hunched back and a face full of stains. He had completely changed his aura and appearance. When he saw Chen Hao at the entrance of the core palace from afar, he said viciously in his heart. He had originally entered the city, but when he heard that Chen Hao's group had already entered the city, he immediately wanted to turn around and flee. But he happened to see the 4 berserk dragons of the temple, which made him change his mind, and he followed them. Now, seeing that the 4 berserk dragons were about to compete with Chen Hao for the core palace, he was extremely excited. He has robbed me 4 times. If I had obtained treasures, especially the Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core, I would definitely be a top expert by now. Fortunately, my luck is extremely strong and I have obtained many treasures. The figure looked at Chen Hao in the distance with hatred as he thought to himself. This fellow was none other than Lan Feng, who had been robbed by Chen Hao 4 times. Ever since Chen Hao had stolen the Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core and killed Bai Yan and Moling Takshu, he did not dare to appear in his true form. Every time he entered the city, the first thing he had to do was to confirm whether Chen Hao had appeared. As long as Chen Hao was around, he would rather slowly comprehend in the wilderness than appear in the city. It could be said that he fled at the sound of the news. This was not without reason. Every time he had been caught by Chen Hao, he had changed his appearance and aura, but he had still been recognized. This time the 4 berserk dragons have made a move, and I have also obtained the ancient divine artifact, the form-changing ring. They definitely won't be able to see my true form, and even if they did, they definitely won't have the chance to cause trouble for me. Lan Feng looked at the backs of the 4 berserk dragons again and said with certainty. As a disciple of the temple, he knew very well how strong the 4 berserk dragons were. If the 4 of them joined forces, not to mention the vast universe galaxy, even among the 10 great tribes, there was probably no one at the Earth's celestial stage who was a match for them. However, just as Lan Feng looked at Chen Hao in front of the core palace again, Chen Hao, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. 2 sharp golden lights like weak stars stared straight at him. How is this possible? Did he discover me? No, he's looking at the 4 berserk dragons. Motherfucker, did I, Lan Feng, grow up in fear? But why are his eyes emitting golden light? With just a glance, cold sweat broke out on Lan Feng's forehead. He stopped in his tracks and shrank back. Chapter 7:13. Lan Feng gritted his teeth, took a deep breath and moved forward again. Not to mention that he wasn't sure if Chen Hao had discovered him. Even if he did, there was no need to be afraid. With the 4 wild dragons attacking, Lan Feng was sure that Chen Hao and the others were doomed. What was there to be afraid of? He really wanted to see the scene of the 4 wild dragons killing Chen Hao. Bang, bang, bang. Separated by 100 meters, the 4 wild dragons stared at Chen Hao and the others with fierce eyes. They didn't say a word, but their footsteps became heavier and heavier. The 4 of them made the same bang-bang sound, like a heavy hammer pounding on everyone's heart. Those with weaker cultivations couldn't help but release their energy. So strong as expected of the 4 wild dragons. Lan Feng and many other cultivators were shocked. Although they had long heard of the 4 wild dragons' sky dragon battle formation of 4 symbols power, when they saw the 4 of them as one, it was still beyond their imagination. Their footsteps, breathing and heartbeats were completely in sync. If one sensed a little, they would find that the 4 of them were like one person with 4 bodies. Their souls seemed to have fused together and they were in perfect harmony. Behind the 4 wild dragons was a team of nearly 500 people. Many of them had a trace of madness on their faces as they looked at Chen Hao and the others with burning eyes. Seeing the team of 500 people led by the 4 of them approaching step by step, Chen Hao, who was sitting cross-legged, narrowed his eyes slightly. His handsome face revealed a trace of seriousness, but there was even more undetectable excitement in the depths of his eyes. It's been 3 years, Chen Hao murmured. For 3 whole years, as long as he wanted to fight for something, everyone avoided him like snakes and scorpions. No one dared to compete with him. No matter where he went, the forbidden area, the city, and the core palace of that area were all his. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. He killed Moling Takshu and Bai Yan, humiliated and forced Hu Mainyang to flee, and became the infamous god of slaughter. On the 4th and 5th floors, he and the others changed directions several times, but it was useless. For 3 whole years they cultivated in peace and no one disturbed them. In this situation, not to mention Chen Hao, even the girls were a little depressed. What was the point of training and cultivation if everything went smoothly? Most of the time they had no choice but to spar with each other. But it was always less thrilling and more scrupulous. And now someone had finally arrived. Furthermore, based on his aura, he could tell that he was an expert. In particular, the aura of the 4 berserk dragons as one caused Chen Hao's blood, which had remained dormant for 3 years, to become excited. However, what made Chen Hao frown was the army behind the 4 mad dragons. There were nearly 500 people, and many of them looked at him and the girls with burning eyes and excitement. As they got closer and closer, the fighting intent of the 500 people formed a steel torrent headed by the 4 mad dragons. Although the surrounding people could feel the terror of this aura, compared to the target Chen Hao and the others, it was completely negligible. Chen Hao clearly felt that this battle was not a battle between him and the 4 mad dragons, but a team battle. Qin Shui, Long Ting, the sisters Fan Donglu and Fan Dongxing all stood up one after another, protecting Han Mei and Yun Wei. If there is a melee later, kill them directly, no need to show mercy. Chen Hao's expression did not change and he said in a low voice. Okay. Qin Shui and the others responded, and their auras also bloomed. In the face of such a situation, everyone knew that unless they could intimidate the other party, no matter how strong they were, they would not be able to withstand the siege of the 4 experts and the army of nearly 500 people. They could only intimidate with their aura and kill with their lives. What arrogance! You're Qin Hao? The 4 mad dragons finally stopped when they were 50 meters away from Qin Hao, and their leader, Wan Long, stared fiercely at Qin Hao and said. At this moment, only Qin Hao was still sitting cross-legged and he did not even stand up. At this moment, although the surroundings were terrifyingly quiet, no one was talking. They all looked at Qin Hao and held their breaths, wanting to see what Qin Hao, who had caused a sensation in the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing, would do in the face of the powerful 4 mad dragons. At this moment, just the fact that Qin Hao was sitting cross-legged and did not stand up surprised everyone. They thought that Qin Hao must be very arrogant, but they did not expect him to be so arrogant. This was absolutely a blatant contempt for the 4 mad dragons. You are the 4 mad dragons of the temple? Qin Hao slightly raised the corner of his mouth and did not answer Wan Long's question. Instead, he asked in the same disdainful tone. In the past 3 years, all the famous experts would be spread through the constantly intertwining and changing cultivators. The 4 mad dragons were undoubtedly a group that was highly praised. Although Qin Hao and the others had not met them before, they could confirm their identities based on their auras and appearances. You know it's us, but you are still so calm. Your courage is commendable. Wan Long was not angry in the face of Qin Hao's disdainful gaze. Instead, he laughed. You are courting death. 30,000 Tiger said gloomily. Boy, if you want to die quickly, hand over the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core and destroy your own primordial spirit. Otherwise, don't blame us brothers for enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens and making you beg for death. 40,000 Tiger pointed at Qin Hao and said arrogantly. Enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Unable to live, unable to die? Qin Hao looked at 40,000 Tiger in surprise. He slowly stood up and laughed. With your moral integrity, what justice on behalf of the heavens? Unable to live, unable to die with just the likes of you? Humph. You killed the geniuses of the human race by Yen Moling Takshu and Qin Lin for the sake of stealing treasures. Everyone has the right to kill you. Although you will definitely die once you step out of the primitive mystic realm, we 4 brothers will not allow you to continue killing our fellow humans. At this moment, Wan Ting, who had been silent all this while, said sternly with a righteous tone. Yes. Kill the devil and enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Qin Hao is inhumane. He even dares to kill the geniuses of the divine palace. He is a devil. Brother Wan, don't talk nonsense with him. Let's kill this devil and enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. In the team of the 4 wild dragons, many people also clamored with righteous indignation, as if they wanted to tear Qin Hao to shreds. Their morale also instantly soared. However, what made Wan Ting frown slightly was that the expressions of Qin Hao, Qin Shui, Long Ting and the others did not change at all. Only the rising fighting spirit became more and more intense. Senior Immortal Yun Wei, who was blocked by Qin Shui, Long Ting and the others, looked solemn. Apparently, she was very worried about the current situation. The disparity between the enemy and her was too great. He had also heard about the strength of the 4 mad dragons. Therefore, the current situation was not optimistic, especially when she felt that she and Senior Immortal Han Mei were burdens. However, unlike Senior Immortal Yun Wei, although Senior Immortal Han Mei was also nervous and worried, there was a faint glimmer of expectation in the depths of her eyes. She stared at Qin Hao's back. Ha! Qin Hao suddenly laughed wildly. His laughter was as loud as thunder, directly suppressing the noise of the chattering. He said, For mad dragons, before I met you, I more or less thought that you should be powerful. After meeting you, do you deserve to be called mad dragons? Bai Yen and Moling Takshu are 100 times stronger than you. If you want the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core, just say it. Why do you have to be hypocritical and talk about enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Don't insult the word mad dragons anymore. Reptiles are more suitable for you. Chapter 7:14. Clang. Boom. Qin Hao unsheathed his sword and released his aura. You think you can take me down by luring them to their deaths? You're fucking dreaming. Come on, I'll beat you all up. Holding his sword in front of his chest, His battle intent and blood qi erupted like a flood. His slaughter sword qi covered the sky and earth. His figure, which was not tall, seemed to have transformed into a god of slaughter. His sword pointed at the crowd and he looked down on the world with disdain. Crazy. Crazy enough to swallow mountains and rivers. Just his aura alone was enough to frighten all the cultivators within a few hundred feet. Not to mention those who had never seen Chen Hao before. Even Lan Feng and the others who had seen Chen Hao's ferocity and power were intimidated by Chen Hao's intense killing intent, causing their hair to stand on end. It had been 3 years. For 3 whole years, no one had dared to lightly go against him. They'd originally thought that Chen Hao, who relied more on his physical body, would have less and less advantage as the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing were unsealed step by step. However, at this moment Chen Hao merely released his aura in an unbridled manner, and it allowed everyone to clearly see that the current Chen Hao was even more terrifying. Especially the aura of the slaughter sword Dao, which seemed to have materialized. The cultivators who had been clamoring to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens widened their eyes in horror. Chen Hao rarely used the slaughter sword Dao. However, at this moment, in order to reduce the number of people killed, he had to use the slaughter sword Dao to deter them. You're courting death. You're courting death. The 4 of us can kill you like killing dogs. All of you back off. Boom. 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 Big Brother Wan Long, Big Brother Wan Hu, and Big Brother Wan Yu were infuriated by Chen Hao's arrogant words and attitude. At this moment they regretted listening to Big Brother Wan Ting's idea. When had the 4 mad dragons ever been afraid? When had they ever talked about reason? They had always been disdainful of acting like whores, but this time, because of Chen Hao and the others, Big Brother Wan Ting had offered generous conditions to bewitch the cultivators under him. Could be said that this was the only time they had done something like this. However, this time they were mocked by Chen Hao as insects. This made Wan Long, Wan Hu and Wan Yu feel ashamed and unable to tolerate it. Big brother. Shut up. Second brother, no one can insult the name of the 4 berserk dragons. Today we must let this arrogant brat know who is the real worm. Boss Wan Long said without hesitation, directly sealing Wan Ting's mouth. He stared coldly at Chen Hao and said, "Very good. I, Wan Long, thought that you and all of you weren't qualified for us 4 brothers to act. My subordinates were enough to kill you all. Now it seems that we have underestimated you. That's right, it's too fake to say that we're enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. We, the 4 berserk dragons, are here for the Dao manifestation immortal fruit core. Hand it over and the 4 of them won't die. I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise all of you will die." Wan Long's voice was cold and arrogant. He was not brainless. He knew that Chen Hao was deliberately provoking him, but he still chose to say it. They were already indifferent to OL Second's decision from the start. Now that Chen Hao had used this opportunity to humiliate the 4 berserk dragons, there was no need for them to do so anymore. If they did that, even if they won, it would stain the reputation of the 4 berserk dragons. It might even affect their Dao heart in the future. Second brother Wan Ting's tightly knitted brows gradually relaxed. He was influenced by the 3 brothers' determination and instantly became unscrupulous. More accurately, he could not be unscrupulous. Furthermore, Wan Long's words just now were not completely ignored. Letting Long Ting, Chen Shui and the sisters go, especially Chen Shui and the sisters who were likely to have fake identities, was his suggestion. Up until now, none of the Sacred Hall disciples had recognized Chen Xiaobai and the sisters before coming to the primitive secret realm. Although he could not be sure now if the 3 of them really had fake identities, their backgrounds were definitely not simple. "You are someone. Hand over the treasures on you and I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise die." At the moment when swords were drawn, everyone knew that a great battle was about to break out. However, they still didn't expect Chen Hao to give them a taste of their own medicine, so they said tit for tat. Arrogant. Boom 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 boom. Clang 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 clang. The 4 berserk dragons roared at the same time. Their voices, tones and expressions all became the same. At the same time, there was an explosion from their bodies. Their essence, qi and spirit fused into one and they unsheathed their swords. Chi 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 chi. Chen Shui, Long Ting, and the sisters rushed to Chen Hao's side at the same time and stood shoulder to shoulder. The surrounding cultivators, including the team behind the 4 berserk dragons, were all frightened away by the pressure that had suddenly soared by countless times. At this moment, They realized that whether it was the 4 berserk dragons or Qinhao's group, they were not people they could contend against. Just the pressure alone made it difficult for them to move, let alone fight. That was simply courting death. Unless they fought to the death with no regard for their lives, there would be no effect. They would just be throwing their lives away. The 4 of you, on account of the fact that you are all disciples of the Divine Hall, if you don't want to die, step back. Wan Ting frowned and said to Qin Shui and the other 3. On account of the fact that you are all disciples of the Divine Hall, it's not too late for you to regret now. Otherwise, Qin Shui said fearlessly as a terrifying destruction sword principle aura bloomed around her. Kill without mercy. Long Ting, who had always had an optimistic appearance, was now filled with fighting spirit. Her majestic and powerful physical aura was actually emitting a faint golden light as she continued Qin Shui's words. Since you don't want to listen to us, don't blame us for being ruthless, Wan Ting said. At this moment, the 4 berserk dragons' expressions turned solemn. The auras of Qin Hao and the 4 girls were not weaker than any of them. Although they were confident that they would win, they also knew that this battle would be the most difficult battle since they entered the primitive secret realm. It was impossible to take them down easily. Zepek. Qin Hao suddenly looked at Qin Shui and the other 3 and frowned slightly. He secretly gave them a look and said, I alone am enough to deal with them. You guys save your strength. Crash, isn't that too awesome? Does Qin Hao not know anything about the 4 berserk dragons? He's courting death. If the 5 of them join forces, it's still possible. What's the difference between him and his death? Yes, although the 4 berserk dragons are not very strong individually, if they join forces, who can defeat them? The cultivators, who had already retreated far away, immediately burst into discussion when they heard Qin Hao's arrogant words that did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Then be careful. Qin Shui frowned slightly and her expression turned solemn. Swoosh, swoosh, roar. At the moment when Qin Shui and the other 3 retreated, the 4 berserk dragons did not waste any more words. They directly attacked from 50 meters away. The 4 swords shot out together and the sword qi contained the power of heaven as they charged toward Qin Hao. The powerful heavenly Dao law was forced to disperse. The wind raged and the sky changed color. At this moment, the aura that was released caused the surrounding cultivators to gasp. Heavenly Dragon Sword Art. It's really powerful. He hasn't broken through the 6th limit and already has such power. A figure quietly hidden in the crowd narrowed his eyes and immediately locked onto Qin Hao, who was swinging his sword. He thought to himself, I want to see how strong he is. It's been 3 years. I must get the Dao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core. Around this figure, who had completely hidden his true body, there were several people who had restrained their aura to the extreme and changed their appearance and aura. Their seemingly ordinary eyes were locked onto Qin Hao at this moment. They knew very well how strong the 4 berserk dragons were. The Heavenly Dragon Sword Art was just the beginning. They hoped that Qin Hao could win. Facing Qin Hao was much better than facing the 4 berserk dragons. However, that was unrealistic. In their opinion, Qin Hao would definitely lose this battle and they would still have to face the 4 berserk dragons in the end. Break for me. Qin Hao directly increased his strength to 100%, and a rare solemn expression appeared between his brows. For 3 years, he who was as lonely as snow, did not think that the battle back then could give him and the girls eternal peace. That was just the calm before the storm. Today, the appearance of the 4 berserk dragons was the fuse. It was also just the fuse. Even if there were only the 4 berserk dragons, it would not be easy for Qin Hao to win, not to mention. Therefore, Qin Hao did not show any mercy. Rumble. The sky fell and the earth cracked. The sword slashed the 4 berserk dragons. The raging energy directly detonated heaven and earth. Retreat. The surrounding cultivators had already retreated far enough considering the strength of the 4 berserk dragons and Qin Hao. However, the terrifying energy released from the first move made the cultivators closer to them scream in horror. One by one they activated their energy and quickly retreated. No one expected that the 4 berserk dragons' probing attack would cause Qin Hao to directly explode. The raging energy turbulence was enough to severely injure an ordinary cultivator. Under the condition that the 9 seals of immortal sealing had not been unsealed, he could release such power. Bang, 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 bang. The 4 berserk dragons also frowned, but they did not panic at all. This was just a probing attack. When the 4 sword chi dragons were released, a terrifying energy also erupted under their feet. Gravel flew everywhere and 4 deep pits appeared. The 4 of them were like arrows released from a bow, instantly surrounding Chen Hao. You want to end this quickly? That's exactly what I want. Then I'll let you experience the power of the 4 celestial dragons. Celestial Dragon Territory. Boom. The arrogant and cold voice of the leader of the 10,000 dragons sounded. The moment the 4 of them surrounded Chen Hao in the 4 celestial dragons' positions, there was an explosion at the same time. Essence chi condensed into 4 pillars of light, soaring into the sky, spiraling and dancing together. Celestial Dragon Territory? At this moment, Chen Hao felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him. Powerful indeed. Damn it, not one of them came. Once they came, they all came. It will be difficult to escape unscathed today. Facing the 4 celestial dragons' special ability, the Celestial Dragon Territory, Chen Hao felt immense pressure. Unless I tell them. Chen Hao's mind raced, but he immediately rejected this idea. With the 4 berserk dragons' nature, even if he said that someone wanted to be the Oriole, it would be difficult for them to stop the battle. Instead, it would weaken his momentum. Then let's fight. Today let me test my strongest battle prowess. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 7:15. Ha! Idiot, in the same realm no one dares to fight with us 4 brothers. Ha! You're really an idiot. I thought it would take a lot of effort, but I didn't expect that there would be someone who didn't dodge in front of us. If you had honestly handed over the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core at the beginning, we could have left you with an intact corpse. But now, humph, I will personally dig it out from your dantian and tear you to pieces. The Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core is such a precious treasure that only us brothers can have. Big brother, third brother, fourth brother, no need to talk nonsense with him. Let's end this quickly. The eyes of the 4 wild dragons shone with arrogance and excitement. Each of their auras was as heavy as a mountain. Under the bright light of the Sky Dragon Territory, they were like gods, looking down on the world with disdain and absolute power. To be able to easily surround Chen Hao and form the Sky Dragon Territory was indeed beyond their expectations. Under normal circumstances, in the same realm, any top genius in the vast universe star system would have to avoid fighting. The 4 of them usually formed the Sky Dragon battle formation of 4 divisions first, and after their mental strength was completely combined, they would use their combined strength and speed to surround their opponent and use the Sky Dragon Territory. Once the Sky Dragon Territory trapped their opponent, that would be the moment they won. There had never been an exception. The 4 of them didn't expect that they would be able to surround Chen Hao so easily. Although this was inevitable in the end, it also saved a lot of time and energy. How could the 4 of them not be excited? In their opinion, either Chen Hao did not understand the terror of their heavenly dragon domain, or he was so arrogant that he could not find north. There is no suspense. I really don't know if this Chen Hao is too arrogant or he doesn't know the power of the 4 wild dragons. The Sky Dragon Territory is enveloped. Not to mention Chen Hao, even an early heavenly immortal stage master would have to surrender. I thought he was strong, but I didn't expect him to be defeated so soon. What should we do? The sisters asked worriedly. At this moment, not to mention Chen Hao, who was in the core of the Sky Dragon Territory, even they who were outside could feel the terrifying pressure emitted by the Sky Dragon Territory. They were sure that as long as they rushed forward, they would be trapped in it, and it would be difficult for them to even touch the 4 wild dragons. Brother Hao knows how powerful the Sky Dragon Territory is. Since he didn't dodge, he should be able to break it. If he can't, we'll attack. Long Ting's battle intent soared. Her long hair danced in the wind, and her majestic and terrifying blood energy caused the surrounding space to distort. Don't worry, although I don't know the present, but when he was very weak back then, he was able to break through a domain that was higher than his own realm. Although the Heavenly Dragon domain is strong, it is still a domain, and it is a domain derived from the Heavenly Dragon 4 symbols formation. What Hao is least afraid of is formations. Qin Shui's beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at the 4 wild dragons and Chen Hao. Although her words were relaxed, her aura was the same as Long Ting's. Both of them had gathered to the peak. Once there was a change, there was no doubt that she would unleash an earth-shattering attack. Even if she fell into the heavenly dragon domain, she would not hesitate. As for the aureole that Qin Hao had discovered long ago, they could only take it one step at a time. No matter what, today was destined to be a bloody battle. Dismember into 1,000 pieces? Today I'll punch the tiger of the southern mountain and kick the dragon of the northern sea, and you 4 worms? Watch how I trample you into meat paste. Come. Boom. When the 4 wild dragons were complacent, everyone thought that Qin Hao was going to lose, and Qin Hao and the rest were worried about him. Qin Hao's body, which seemed to be bent by the sky dragon territory, suddenly straightened like an arrow released from a bow. Your strength is not bad, but it's a pity that it's just a last-ditch struggle. Kill him. Boss Wanlong's robe swelled up, and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he let out a loud roar. Boss Wanyu followed his roar and swung his sword. Rumble. The earth trembled and the space shattered. A terrifying sword light like a silver waterfall slashed toward Qin Hao with a terrifying force. No one in the Earth's celestial stage can block this sword. Although the 4 wild dragons were surprised that Qin Hao could straighten his body, they were only surprised. At this moment, Boss Wanyu's sword slashed out, and that was the moment when Qin Hao would die. In their opinion, no one in the Earth's celestial stage could resist the combined power of the 4 brothers. Especially in the Sky Dragon territory, their power was enhanced, and Qin Hao had to divert a large part of his power to resist the suppression of the territory. What was the suspense? Get ready. The moment Wanyu slashed his sword, several figures had already quietly approached from the crowd. One of the figures' beautiful vermilion lips opened slightly. Although there was no sound, the people who had been paying attention to her all this time instantly understood. One by one, they grasped the hilts of their swords and a sharp light flashed in their eyes. Buzz. Qin Hao attacked. His speed was not fast. To be exact, it was very slow in the eyes of the crowd. It was so slow that everyone could see every movement of his body as if it was in slow motion. It was a sharp contrast to Wanyu's sword. Moreover, Qin Hao's sword seemed to be very heavy. However, while Qin Hao's sword was still charging forward, it made a fierce buzzing sound. The ancient sword, which was shining with a cold light, seemed to suddenly become bigger and its shape changed. Rumble. The moment Wanyu's sword light neared his body, Qin Hao's action of thrusting his sword forward suddenly erupted. When the sword light and the treasure sword met, it was as if heavenly thunder had broken through the sky. The translucent golden heavenly dragon domain began to tremble violently. Rumble. Immediately, an even more terrifying explosion was heard. Dust filled the air and gravel flew everywhere. Crisscrossing sword marks and deep pits appeared on the hard rock ground. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Terrifying screams erupted from the surrounding crowd. Countless people activated their energy to defend themselves. Those who reacted slower were injured. Fortunately, it was only a turbulent flow of energy and was not enough to kill them. The surrounding palaces automatically shone with a powerful protective light at this moment. Deng deng deng. Wanyu's robe was riddled with holes. If not for the soft armor he wore before entering the primitive secret realm, he would probably be naked in front of everyone. Impossible. How is this possible? Regardless of whether it was the 4 wild dragons, the spectating cultivators, or the aureole hiding in the surroundings, ready to make a move at the critical moment, all of them widened their eyes in shock. No one had thought that in the heavenly dragon domain, under the situation where one side was weakened and the other side was strengthened, not only was Qin Hao not killed, he even gained the upper hand. He is actually so strong. There's no need to hold back, kill. After a short period of shock, the 10,000 dragons who were at the core glared angrily. Light shone brightly and suddenly, it was as if they were burning in flames. A dragon-shaped shadow appeared on their bodies and a bright light rose. Like a divine dragon roaming the void, they stabbed out with their sword. At the same time, second brother, third brother and fourth brother attacked at the same time with the same posture. No one could imagine how powerful these 4 swords were when they merged into one. Chapter 7:16. Roar. Clap, clap, clap. Qin Hao's body trembled violently as his meridians and bones emitted dense explosive sounds. His clothes swelled up, his hair danced wildly and his eyes burst with light. His sword drew a Tai Chi symbol that seemed slow and heavy, but it was unknown whether it was because the pressure he was enduring was too great or because the energy contained was too majestic. But in the blink of an eye, his eyes actually turned into two colors. His left eye was as black as ink while his right eye was as white as snow. They slowly circled around his body as if they were cutting space apart, and a black and white Tai Chi symbol that wrapped around his body condensed. It was also at this moment that Qin Hao's sword and palm struck out together. Bang! The sword light streaked across countless times in an instant, and at the same time, a black and white intertwined palm print seemed to have come from the sky. It was black and white, and it caused the four symbols domain to swell and tremble violently, causing the heaven and earth to lose their color. At this moment, Qin Shui, Long Ting, and the sisters who were about to decisively attack suddenly stopped, their eyes filled with shock. Even they were incomparably shocked. One must know that all these years they had always been together with Qin Hao, and it could be said that they already knew Qin Hao very well. But at this time they discovered that Qin Hao, who had always been right under their noses, still had too many things that they could not imagine. Rumble. In the second confrontation they finally met. Tai Chi Yin and Yang devoured the heaven and earth, and the four symbols of the heavenly dragon toppled the mountains and overturned the seas, creating a myriad of phenomena. Bang! Rumble. The heavenly dragon domain, which caused all the cultivators of the same realm to turn pale at the mention of it, was no longer able to withstand the terrifying energy explosion and burst apart. The golden energy of the domain was like a chaotic whirl piercing through the sky, surging like raging waves, violently shooting in all directions. Rumble. Qin Shui, Long Ting, and all the other experts gathered their energy in shock, forming a powerful protective aura and rapidly retreated. Puff, 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 puff. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Qin Hao and the four wild dragons' mouths. Qin Hao stood still while the four wild dragons were sent flying in four different directions. Qin Hao's Taoist robe could no longer withstand the bombardment of the terrifying energy and directly became ragged. Fortunately, he did his best to protect himself and did not turn into ashes. Otherwise, Qin Hao, who was not wearing any soft armor, was afraid that a gentleman's balls would be exposed in front of everyone. Under the tattered Taoist robe, every inch of exposed skin had turned blood red. Blood was seeping out from every pore. It was a ghastly sight. Anyone who saw this scene would be incomparably horrified. They couldn't imagine what kind of pressure and force Qin Hao had endured to become like this. So powerful. All these years, no one has been able to force me to such an extent. Heavenly Dragon Battle Formation of four symbols, Heavenly Dragon Domain for people as one. If it weren't for the Dragon Elephant Great Strength technique of the 3,000 Great Paths, I really would have died here today. Qin Hao had long expected that this battle would be very difficult. However, although it was difficult, he was still quite confident in his physical body, battle skills, and battle strength. He had the belief that he would definitely win. Now, he had indeed broken the Heavenly Dragon Domain and seriously injured the four of them, but the degree of difficulty far exceeded Qin Hao's imagination. If he did not have the ultimate techniques of the 3,000 Great Paths, he would probably have fallen at the hands of the four of them. On the other hand, the four wild dragons who were sent flying were in a worse state than Qin Hao. The soft armor on their bodies was riddled with holes, their mouths were full of blood and their faces were pale. Their vitality, which was still strong just now, was now terrifyingly weak. This was not only a physical injury but more importantly, a mental injury caused by the collapse of the Heavenly Dragon Domain. Any domain was completely connected to the caster's mind. If the domain was broken, the mind would be damaged. How could this brat be so abnormal? The four wild dragons were shocked. Others might not know, but they clearly knew how terrifying the power contained in the attack just now was. The full-strength attack of the four of them as one, the amplification of the Heavenly Dragon Battle Formation of four symbols, and the Heavenly Dragon Domain was enough to let the attack just now display 20 times the power of their individual attacks. However, Qin Hao actually broke the Heavenly Dragon Battle Formation of four symbols in the instant of the attack and pierced the only way out of the battle formation. If it was just this, it would have been fine. After all, their attack had been completed, but Qin Hao actually withstood their attack with his own strength, breaking the domain and seriously injuring them. This was simply impossible. Roar. The 10,000 dragons roared. The more frustrated they were, the braver they became, and they went completely crazy. Kill. Even if we're seriously injured, we have to kill this brat. Combine. Boom. The withered vitality was instantly released again. The dragon soared and the tiger leaped as the four symbols became one. At this moment the four figures were no longer separated. Instead they combined together in an extremely strange way in an instant. This is also possible. Qin Hao's sharp perception shifted away from the restless Oriole, who was about to attack but was interrupted by the sudden surge in the aura of the four wild dragons. His pupils shrank. The four people in front of him were like transformers combined together, becoming a giant. The eldest brother was in the middle, the second brother was riding on his neck, and the third brother and fourth brother's bodies changed shape, wrapping around the eldest brother's chest and abdomen, as if they had become deformed monsters. Ha! Brat, you're very strong. To be able to force us four wild dragons to such a state, even if you die you should be proud. In this world, in the same realm, no one can force us brothers to use our trump cards. Ha! Peng peng peng. The eyes of the eldest brother, Wanlong, blossomed with an arrogant and cold light. He laughed sinisterly as he approached Qin Hao step by step. Every step he took caused the earth to tremble. The pressure and aura on his body also rose violently. You're very powerful, I, Wanlong, can be sure that even in the temple in the same realm, you can be called a king. You're the first to be able to find the life gate of the Sky Dragon 4 Divisions formation in an instant in the Sky Dragon territory. Unfortunately, today you must die. Peng peng peng. This is the true combination of the Sky Dragon 4 Divisions. Defying the heavens and dying without a single one. I'd like to see how you find the life gate. How do you break it? Ah! Wanlong's voice was filled with boundless power. Just his laughter caused the surrounding palaces to automatically shine with protective light. The cultivators who were watching, those with weaker cultivation, even covered their ears. Even so, they felt as if their minds were about to fall into a trance. Is this the true power of the four wild dragons? Too strong. I didn't expect that no one in the temple had ever forced the four wild dragons to use their trump cards. No wonder he was conferred a title by the temple. The combination of the Sky Dragon 4 Divisions. At this moment, if not for the suppression of the 9 seals of immortal sealing, he definitely has the strength of a heavenly immortal. Who can defeat him? Luckily we didn't make a move. While countless cultivators were shocked, the Orioles broke out in cold sweat. When they saw the four wild dragons and Qin Hao heavily injured, they were about to take down Qin Hao. They believed that at this time, even if the four wild dragons were angry, they would not be able to stop them. Of course, they did not dare to do anything to the four wild dragons. At most, they would snatch away Qin Hao, who had great treasures. They were not as crazy and reckless as Qin Hao. But now, they felt the aura of the four wild dragons and were extremely shocked. If they had made a move just now, although they would not have died, they would have paid a heavy price. In such a state, even I would have to fight with my life on the line. I'd like to see how this guy will deal with it, humph. The Oriole leader's eyes shone as he thought to himself. Qin Hao, who was already covered in blood, suddenly spat out another mouthful of blood under the increasingly terrifying pressure of the four wild dragons. His pupils constricted. Even he did not expect the four wild dragons to be so strong and to have such a terrifying trump card hidden. The four appearances of the Sky Dragon as one, the gate of life hidden within one's body. To have such a heaven-defying method. All living things in the world had a slim chance of survival. No divine ability, law, formation or rune could truly kill. The one that escaped was the one that had a chance of survival. But now, this strange combination of the four wild dragons was able to defy the heavens and hide even the slightest chance of survival. Although it was not a true obliteration, it was no different from obliteration. This was because the gate of life was at the core of the four wild dragons. Apart from using absolute power to suppress and kill the other party, who could step into the gate of life? Moreover, everyone could clearly sense that the four wild dragons were now truly one. Their primordial spirits had completely fused into the body of their eldest brother, Wanlong. Their essence, chi spirit and true yuan had condensed into one. Apart from absolute power, it could be said that there was no flaw. How could he resist? Although Qin Hao was strong, his cultivation stage was only at the peak of the initial stage of the Earth's celestial stage. With his strong body, it was already quite heaven-defying for him to resist one of the four wild dragons with absolute power. It was simply impossible for him to resist the combined power of the four wild dragons. Their power is too much. Even if I use the unique skill of Tai Chi, I can't guide them. 4 ounces to 1,000 caddies. I need 4 ounces to succeed. What should I do? With a dignified look in his eyes, Qin Hao thought quickly. Since the battle of subduing Guanyu, Qin Hao had never encountered such a dangerous situation. If he was alone, he would run away if he could not defeat them. But now, Qin Hao was very clear that once he ran away, the Oriole hidden in the crowd would definitely attack him. More importantly, how could Qin Shui, Long Ting, the 2 beautiful sisters and his 2 masters, all escape? Die. Boom. Ow. When the 4 wild dragons were about 10 meters away from Qin Hao, they violently attacked with their swords. The dragon's roar resounded through the 9 heavens, and the sword Qi was like an ancient divine dragon descending to the world. Whoosh. A violent gale that could destroy the heavens and the earth, move mountains and fill seas, and a cold light condensed into the primordial divine dragon's golden claws that directly clawed at Qin Hao. The momentum was vast, lofty, and majestic, yet it didn't lose its fierce killing intent. Crack. To everyone's horror, this heaven-defying attack, which seized the fortune of heaven and earth, triggered the 9 heavens' divine thunder. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, and the heavens and the earth changed color. Everyone knew and believed that Qin Hao was doomed. How? Brother Hao. Brother Hao, Brother Qin Hao. How At this moment Qin Shui, Long Ting, the 2 beautiful sisters Fan Donglu, Fan Dongxing, and senior immortal Yunwei all cried out in horror. Chapter 7:17. However, even if they wanted to help, they didn't know where to start. It was even more impossible for them to help. Firstly, it was simply too late. Secondly, even if they could make it in time, it would be like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. In practically an instant, the terror of losing Qin Hao, caused the eyes of all the women to be filled with tears, and despair caused them to go mad and furious. They intended to charge forward with their lives on the line. Even if they were moths flying into a flame, even if they were like mantises trying to stop a chariot, they were unable to watch helplessly as Qin Hao's body was shattered into pieces and his body and soul were obliterated. If they were going to die, then they would die together. At this moment, Qin Hao's mind was completely immersed in the battle, and he couldn't pay attention to the movements of Qin Shui and the others. A tragedy seemed to be about to unfold. Not to mention Qin Hao, once the women rushed forward, even Long Ting, who had a strong body, would be submerged by the attacks of the 4 wild dragons, let alone Qin Shui and the others. Everyone calm down. Senior Immortal Han Mei seemed to have expected this scene. When the women Fan Dongxing and Fan Donglu were about to rush forward, she suddenly stood in front of them. He won't die so easily. If you go forward, you will die instead. A wave of aura that was not strong but profound was emitted from Han Mei Immortal Venerable. Her voice seemed to resound in the minds of Qin Shui, Long Ting and the sisters. It was like the evening drum and morning bell shaking their souls. Since the battle 3 years ago, Venerable Han Mei had a subtle change. Although it was very small, Qin Shui and the others who were familiar with her could feel it. However, they couldn't tell what kind of change it was. It seemed to be an internal change in the state of mind and soul. On the surface, she had become very quiet. But now, Senior Immortal Han Mei suddenly stopped the 4 women in front. Her aura was clearly very weak, but it gave Qin Shui and the other 3 a kind of pressure that they couldn't resist. That was a pressure that came from the depths of their souls. It forcibly made them stay where they were, unable to move forward. Apotheon Yunwei, Fan Dongxing and Fan Donglu were originally behind Qin Shui's group of 4. When the 4 of them stopped, they had no choice but to stop as well. However, when they heard Apotheon Han Mei's words, they felt completely different from Qin Shui's group of 4. Han Mei. Venerable Yunwei looked at Venerable Han Mei, who grabbed her with puzzlement and unwillingness in her eyes. Rumble. Although it took a long time to describe, all of this happened in the blink of an eye. It was also at this moment that Qin Hao, who seemed to have no other choice but to resist, finally moved. With a wild roar and a terrifying tremor from the earth, Qin Hao soared into the sky like a crazed primordial beast. Is Qin Hao crazy? Isn't this courting death? No one had thought that the 4 berserk dragons, Heavenly Dragon 4 elephants unite into one would actually be heaven-defying enough to trigger heavenly punishment. What did this mean? This meant that this was definitely an ultimate technique that surpassed one's cultivation level. It could be said to be a perfect existence. There was no such thing as absolute perfection in this world. This was the heavenly Tao. The lightning punishment that was triggered now was something that the heavenly Tao could not tolerate. How heaven-defying was that? But what was even more unexpected was that Qin Hao actually rushed towards the nine heavens' divine thunder. Right. At this moment, venerable immortal Han Mei's eyes emitted 2 rays of light. There was a touch of excitement in the depths of her eyes as she shouted in a deep voice. The eyes of the aureole hidden in the crowd were also brimming with vigor. He seemed to be deep in thought. Her beautiful delicate lips formed an O shape as if she had vaguely thought of something and grasped something. However, she immediately sneered. This is the best ending. The 4 elephants' heavenly dragon battle formation is an ultimate battle formation. When the 4 elephants unite into one, it will wipe out any chance of survival. Triggering the lightning punishment is inevitable. Even if the 4 berserk dragons are prepared, they will still be severely injured. As for Qin Hao, even if he catches the lightning and forcibly opens the life gate, he will not be able to escape death. Not to mention that the 4 berserk dragons have already condensed their attacks. Even the lightning punishment itself is enough to severely injure him. I really don't know if he is smart or an idiot. This aureole leader thought quickly. She was none other than the saintess of the Misty Rain House, Hu Meinyang, who was kicked in the butt by Qin Hao. Among the crowd of onlookers, there were not many who could see her true nature. Moreover, she who was experienced, knowledgeable and possessed formidable strength was one of them. Qin Hao's kick was an extraordinary humiliation to Hu Meinyang, and if it was possible she would have shattered Qin Hao into pieces a long time ago. Unfortunately, even though she was renowned in the past and reigned supreme in the world, there wasn't a single person in the earthly immortal realm that she took a liking to. It was precisely because of this that she'd raised her head proudly in the primal secret realm and didn't have a true friend. Just like Moling Takshu and Bai Yen from all those years ago, they wouldn't be bewitched by the Tao manifestation immortal fruit's beauty at all. Who would be a fool to give without hope? Especially a young man who was able to stand at the peak of the human race. He was absolutely an intelligent person. Therefore, she had never had the chance to make a move during these 3 years. Because she was very clearly aware that Qin Hao's body was too strong. Moreover, he possessed a strange ultimate technique, causing her to be unable to see through Qin Hao's true combat strength. Moreover, Qin Hao had the extremely powerful Qin Shui Long Ting and the beautiful sisters by his side. No matter what, he wasn't someone she could go against alone. She was astute and would never do anything she wasn't confident in, especially in the earthly immortal realm. Because her name couldn't be tainted with any blemishes in such a low realm, she had been silent for 3 years. Firstly, it was to conceal her true identity and make friends with some formidable young geniuses to unite around her and make use of them. Secondly, it was to weaken the strength of Qin Hao's body as the 9 seals of immortal sealing were unsealed layer by layer. Today she just happened to encounter the 4 berserk dragons attacking Qin Hao. Now it was destined that one of them would die and 4 of them would be severely injured. The Tao manifestation immortal fruit core was already in her bag. As for not being able to kill Qin Hao with her own hands, she didn't have any regrets. Her image in the cultivation world was noble and upright. If she hadn't encountered the Tao manifestation immortal fruit core, which was very important to her, she would never have done something like snatching a Dharma treasure, let alone killing someone and snatching the treasure in front of everyone. Such an outcome was undoubtedly the best. It's useless. Turn around. Rumble. Seeing that Qin Hao was about to be killed, the 4 berserk dragons didn't expect that Qin Hao would dare to rush towards the lightning to avoid it. However, in the eyes of the 4 berserk dragons, this was just quenching thirst with poison and would only lead to an even more miserable death. Their combined primordial spirits were activated, and the extremely terrifying dragon sword radiance suddenly soared into the sky with a whistle and charged towards Qin Hao again. Crack. Rumble. Divine lightning from the 9 heavens struck, and Qin Hao's entire body was wrapped in lightning. His black hair danced wildly and his blood-soaked body radiated crystal light in all directions. Lightning circled around him, and even though every inch of his skin was charred black and cracked, his aura instantly rose to a terrifying level. Runes appeared on the surface of his body from inside out, and the profound, majestic and complete aura of the heavenly Tao laws was released from his body at the same time. His eyes turned into an ocean of lightning, deep and vast. Why didn't I think of this? Hu Mainyong muttered in shock. Chapter 7:18. Thunder punishment, no matter which world or space it was in, was an existence that transcended heaven and earth. It was a complete law of the great Tao, an existence that could break all seals. Even the powerful 9 restrictions of immortal sealing would dissipate within the range of the thunder punishment. This meant that Qin Hao would be able to escape the restraints of the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing and instantly return to his peak state, even though he would have to bear the bombardment of the lightning. In such a situation, for ordinary cultivators, or to be exact for cultivators weaker than the 4 wild dragons, it was undoubtedly suicide. But for Qin Hao it was the best choice. Because of Qin Hao's powerful physical body, as long as the 4 berserk dragons could withstand it, he would be able to. If the 4 berserk dragons couldn't withstand it, he might be able to withstand it. At most they would just perish together, which was much better than waiting for death to come. Moreover, Qin Hao could merge with the lightning and his attacks could be combined with the power of the lightning. And now, Qin Hao seemed to have merged with the lightning and transformed into a god of thunder punishment. This was obviously beyond the expectations of Hu Mainyong and everyone else. For heaven and earth. For heaven and earth, for me. Break for me. Just as everyone was shocked, surprised, and puzzled, not understanding why Qin Hao, who had been severely injured by the lightning, suddenly seemed to merge with the lightning, Qin Hao's emotionless voice suddenly resounded through the 9 heavens. Even the deafening thunder couldn't cover up his voice. Every word and pause was like the sound of the great Tao, resonating with heaven and earth, dancing with all laws, piercing through the sky and shaking people's hearts. When the word break bloomed like spring thunder, Qin Hao pressed down with his palm. The great void handprint whizzed out, containing the endless power of lightning, like a god of thunder descending with divine might. Rumble. Rumble. The great thunder punishment handprint collided with the dragon-shaped sword light of the 4 wild dragons, and an explosion resounded through heaven and earth, causing a black hole crack to appear in the void. A spatial crack. Fortunately, this was the holy land of experience and inheritance condensed by ancient mighty figures. Even the collapse of the universe didn't destroy it. Although the energy of Qin Hao and the 4 wild dragons broke the spatial barrier, it automatically healed in an instant. Even so, it still left everyone dumbfounded. The dragon sword radiance was like a firefly competing with the sun and moon at this moment. There was no suspense at all as it was shattered by Qin Hao's grand void handprint. The mountain-like giant hand with a brilliant heavenly might came crashing down with a loud crash. Ah, chi 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 chi. The 4 wild dragons that had merged into one let out a terrified cry. They had thought that victory was within their grasp, but they did not expect that the situation would suddenly reverse. They could not even escape even if they wanted to. They tried their best to block the giant hand that was pressing down like a mountain, but it was completely useless. Before the giant hand reached them, the power of thunder that it contained had already covered their bodies with the light of thunder and blue flames. Rumble. The earth suddenly shook violently. Many stunned cultivators were bounced into the sky by the violent rebounding force. They exclaimed in surprise, but their eyes were fixed on the giant hand-shaped pit that appeared at the center of the battle in horror. Everything within a radius of 1,000 feet had turned into pitch-black scorched earth, devoid of all life. The 4 berserk dragons are dead. Oh my god, is that even possible? Is that even possible? How can he be so strong? Is he still an earth immortal? The surroundings were silent. Only the sound of gasps and horrifying sighs could be heard. Even the despairing Qin Shui Long Ting and the others were stunned for a moment. They stared blankly at Qin Hao, who was floating in the void like the god of thunder, and were inexplicably excited. This was their man. The man who had always been creating miracles. Every time they thought that he could not do it, he would show them a freakishly powerful ability which proved that he could do it. Everyone looked up at the figure in the void, surrounded by thunder and lightning, and their hearts were in turmoil. At this moment, Hu Mainyong and the other Orioles did not dare to make a sound, let alone make a move. It was no different from suicide. But Hu Mainyong and the others knew that when the thunder and lightning disappeared and Qin Hao fell, it would be time for them to make a move. When Qin Shui Long Ting and the sisters were sure that the 4 berserk dragons had been annihilated, they did not immerse themselves in surprise for long. At the same time, they released a strong fighting spirit and rushed to Chen Hao. Previously, Chen Hao had warned them, so they had known that the Orioles were coming. They had not been able to stop the 4 berserk dragons with Chen Hao, and Chen Hao had almost died. They had tasted the fear of losing all hope, and they did not want to experience it again. If they wanted to touch Chen Hao, they would have to step over their dead bodies. But whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, the thunder punishment, which should have subsided quickly, did not disappear. Instead, there was an even more terrifying tremor, which spread wildly at a speed of 1,000 miles in an instant. Ah? Heavenly punishment. How could this be? Just by the aura, all the cultivators who had experienced the heavenly punishment knew what was going on. But because they knew it, they were surprised, especially those who knew some information about Chen Hao. They were even more puzzled. Before he stepped into the primitive mystic area, he was only at the initial stage of the Earth celestial stage. How could he trigger the heavenly punishment? At this moment, he did not use any heaven-defying skills like the 4 berserk dragons. The only possibility was that he was about to become a heaven celestial. However, in the primitive mystic area, which was many times more powerful than the vast universe galaxy, in less than 20 years, his aura was at the initial stage of the Earth celestial stage. How could he have crossed a small stage and become a heaven celestial? It can't be the heavenly punishment for becoming a heaven celestial. He must have been affected by the thunder punishment just now, and his aura is heaven-defying. It must be so. Yes, I heard that the daughter of the 4th master of the vast universe galaxy, the invincible golden celestial king Zhou Xian, after entering the human celestial stage, would trigger the heavenly punishment for every small stage she advanced. Could this Chen Hao be comparable to the golden celestial king Zhou Xian? How could this be? I told you, because of the thunder punishment just now. No matter how strong he is, he can't be compared to the golden celestial king Zhou Xian. When Zhou Xian was in the Daluo Golden Wonderland, many Hongmeng supreme beings were no match for her. If it weren't for her mysterious disappearance, I'm afraid she would have surpassed her father and become a real legend. Before the golden celestial stage, she set countless records and no one has broken them. It's a pity. If she was here, our vast universe galaxy would have no problem dominating the top 10 galaxies. How could Chen Hao compare to her? Zhou Xian, the invincible golden celestial king, was a real invincible golden celestial. When she stepped into the Daluo Golden Wonderland, not to mention those in the same stage, even the Hongmeng supreme beings didn't dare to challenge her. She was the first genius since ancient times. Unfortunately, before she reached the peak of her life, she suddenly vanished without a trace, never to appear in vast universe galaxy again. At that time, even the 4th generation master of vast universe galaxy, her father, was the strongest powerhouse under the heavens and was also known as the strongest master of vast universe galaxy since ancient times. He had used his own body to form a second world, but he still hadn't been able to find her. The only thing he could confirm was that her longevity tablet was still intact. As for what it was now, no one knew. Retreat. Why aren't you retreating? Someone shouted. Many people who were still immersed in shock and discussion didn't dare to hesitate and quickly retreated. Let's retreat too. Don't worry about him. Celestial Venerable Han Mei said after glancing at the deep pit under Chen Hao's body. After that, she pulled Qin Shui and took the lead to retreat into the distance. The energy of heaven and earth gathered crazily, and the fluctuations spread for tens of thousands of miles. Dark clouds rolled and strong winds filled the air. The aura of the mysterious and powerful heavenly Tao Law became more and more terrifying. Not long after, the cultivators who were running away madly all revealed excitement and shock in their eyes. Then they soared into the sky and flew thousands of kilometers in the blink of an eye. When they reached thousands of miles away, they suddenly fell from the void. Within thousands of miles, the confinement of the 9 seals of immortal sealing disappeared. No one could describe the shock in their hearts. Everyone concluded that Chen Hao, who risked universal condemnation to kill Moling Takshu by Yan and Qin Lin 3 years ago, was far more terrifying than they imagined. Many cultivators returned to the edge of thousands of miles and flew into the air. They looked at Chen Hao, who was at the core of the thunder punishment, and their minds were completely integrated into the terrifying heavenly Tao Law. This was a rare opportunity for everyone. It It was also at this time that 4 streams of light condensed into one body suddenly flew out from the huge pit under Chen Hao. They were as fast as lightning and disappeared into the sky. Even Chen Hao revealed a look of surprise. Unfortunately, he was shrouded in the aura of the heavenly punishment and couldn't spare any energy to chase after them. Crack. Rumble. The 9 heavens' divine thunder finally condensed and descended from the sky. Chen Hao, who was already surrounded by lightning, didn't deliberately resist but chose to resist it head-on. Chen Hao's eyes shone with excitement and madness. Even he didn't expect to have such an opportunity. Just as some cultivators guessed, his heavenly punishment wasn't the heavenly punishment of stepping into the celestial stage, but the heavenly punishment of advancing to a small stage. Moreover, it was caused by the 4 wild dragons' heaven-defying thunder punishment. The area of the 4 wild dragons' heavenly punishment allowed him to temporarily transcend the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing and return to his most powerful state. Over the past 20 years, especially in the area of the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing, he couldn't suppress it anymore. Especially when the 4 wild dragons' heavenly punishment descended, he integrated himself into the thunderbolts in the state of I am heaven and earth are me. At that moment, the celestial fruit of Tao manifestation that he had swallowed and nourished in his dantian was like a sponge absorbing water, crazily devouring the terrifying heavenly Tao law in the thunderbolts. The heavenly punishment descended. Crack. Rumble. The destructive thunderbolts descended one after another. After 4 hours, the shaking of heaven and earth disappeared and the dark clouds dispersed. The aura of the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing swept over every inch of space again. The medium stage of the Earth's celestial stage. Phew. It's a pity that I didn't even have time to comprehend it. The remaining power of the heavenly punishment nourished Chen Hao and restored him to his peak state instantly. The huge injuries on his body also disappeared without a trace. However, the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing that followed didn't allow Chen Hao to experience the power of the medium stage of the Earth's celestial stage. The only thing he could feel was that his body and spirit were unprecedentedly full and powerful. Chapter 719. The lightning energy surrounding Chen Hao had yet to dissipate when a strong wave of heaven and earth energy swept over from afar. What's going on? Chen Hao was surprised that there was more than one wave. It seemed to be coming from all directions at the same time. Moreover, the waves were stronger than the wave of heaven and earth energy that he had triggered. Could it be that my heavenly punishment has caused other cultivators to undergo their tribulations? Oh no, this must be the heavenly punishment for ascending to a heaven celestial. Chen Hao's mind raced as he thought of a possibility. Most of the cultivators who had entered the primitive mystic realm were at the peak of the advanced Earth celestial stage. The area that he had triggered the heavenly punishment earlier was extremely large. All the cultivators within that area had temporarily escaped the restraints of the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing. After 20 years of accumulation and improvement, it was not strange that these cultivators at the peak of the advanced Earth celestial stage could trigger the heavenly punishment. Buzz. In just a breath's time, Chen Hao felt the suppression of the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing disappear again. If Hu Mainyang and the others have ascended to the heaven celestial stage, it'll be dangerous. Even with the restrictions of the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing, it'll be difficult for me to deal with them. I have to leave quickly. Otherwise, I'll definitely become a target for everyone. When he thought of this, Chen Hao did not dare to hesitate. Without the suppression of the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing, Chen Hao's powerful soul perceptions spread out and instantly locked onto Qin Shui and the others who were thousands of miles away. He quickly flew over. Master. At this moment, Old God's voice appeared in Chen Hao's mind. You have the Tao manifestation's celestial fruit in your dantian? Yes. Old God, this is the space of the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing. At this moment, because someone has triggered the heavenly punishment, it's temporarily unaffected. Do you have a way to resist the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing? Chen Hao communicated in his mind as he flew. My ability will improve as you improve, Master. Moreover, the 9 restrictions of celestial sealing is also a form of training for you. That's not right. How could this place trigger? Gasp. Hearing Old God's doubts, Qin Hao opened his mind completely and became one with old God. Otherwise it would be troublesome to explain. So that's how it is. Master, take out the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core and put it back into your mind. This is a precious treasure. It will bring unimaginable benefits to your future cultivation. Even the previous owners didn't have the opportunity to obtain it. So powerful. Qin Hao was slightly surprised. Although he knew that the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core was a rare treasure, he did not expect that even the old god would hold it in such high esteem. Of course. Right now it's just a fruit core. Even if it's the lowest grade, once it matures, it'll be a heaven-defying existence. The speed at which you comprehend the laws of the heavens will increase by an astonishing amount. In your dantian, it'll take 1,000 years of nourishment before it can take root and germinate. However, if it's implanted in your mind, I have a way to accelerate its growth. Qin Hao replied. He opened his mouth and spat out a sparkling and translucent light, which was absorbed into the space between his eyebrows. How? Brother Hao. In an instant Qin Hao met up with Qin Shui and the others who were flying toward him. At this moment all the cultivators were in a mess. Within a radius of a few thousand miles at least 100 people were triggering the heavenly punishment, and the number was still increasing. Judging from their auras, it could be determined that these were the heavenly punishment of those who had stepped into the heaven celestial stage. Countless cultivators who had not triggered the heavenly punishment were frantically scattering in all directions. Some of the cultivators who had triggered the heavenly punishment had to quickly disperse, in case the heavenly punishment overlapped and they could not bear it. In the beginning no one had thought of such a scene, but it was really happening. It was foreseeable that in the near future, all the cultivators who had been promoted to the heaven celestial stage here would dominate the 9 celestial ceiling restrictions and run amok. We have to leave quickly. Once Hu Mainyang and a few other experts reach the heaven celestial stage, it's impossible to estimate how powerful they will be. Qin Hao looked at the crowd and said directly, I just reached the medium stage of the earth celestial stage. Is it Hu Mainyang? Qin Shui asked, frowning. Although Qin Hao had warned her and the others, Qin Shui's special ability was more powerful than Qin Hao's, so she could not determine who it was. Yes. Over there, in the direction of the most terrifying aura, she should be the one triggering the heavenly punishment. Qin Hao looked up in a direction and said, I knew this woman would not give up easily. This time she was well prepared. If the 4 wild dragons hadn't disturbed her plan, it's hard to say what the result would be. After she reached the heaven celestial stage she will be even more powerful. Qin Hao's words made Qin Shui, Long Ting and the others frown. They knew very well that if Qin Hao said it was dangerous, it must be dangerous. Otherwise, according to Qin Hao's character, even if he had a 20% chance of winning, he would not say such words. Obviously, Hu Mainyang was extremely powerful. However, at this moment, Venerable Han Mei pondered for a moment and suddenly said, Master has a suggestion. The Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core is a rare treasure, and Hu Mainyang with her innate Tao foundation will definitely not give it up. However, she won't go on a killing spree without any scruples. She's only targeting you. Moreover, after this matter she won't be the only one. I'm afraid all the experts in the 10 great clans who know the true value of the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core will fight for it. Yes, Master is right. The value of the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Core seems to be far beyond our imagination. Qin Hao said with a frown. Therefore Master suggests that we train separately. Venerable Han Mei stared at Qin Hao and said in a deep voice. Separate? Mother. Little Shui, listen to Mother. Venerable Han Mei waved her hand to stop Qin Shui and continued, we won't be of any use if we stay with Hao. Instead we'll be a burden to him. Just like today, if it was him he could have escaped immediately. Even if it was a risky battle he could have retreated at the right time. However, because of us. Master, you can't think like that. No matter what, we can't be separated. This place is too dangerous and I don't want any accidents to happen to you. Qin Hao said. Venerable Han Mei shook her head and said, staying with you is the most dangerous thing for us. Separating is a good thing for you and for us. I believe many disciples of the Sacred Palace are aware of little Shui Huan and Lei Lei's identities. At least in the human race no one would dare to kill them easily. Later on, when the 10 great clans gather, they'll definitely form an alliance. After all, one person's strength is limited. As for you, you can be fearless after separating. Master knows you can't let us go, but you must know that as long as you're strong enough, you'll be the best guardian for us. If you bring us along, not only will we hinder your progress, but we'll also die prematurely. High and lonely walk the great Tao alone. This, well said. High and lonely walk the great Tao alone. I didn't expect Venerable Han Mei to have such awareness. Mother is right. Qin Shui pondered for a moment, bit her lips and stared at Qin Hao. Brother Hao, auntie is right. For the time being, let's separate. After breaking through the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing, it won't be long before we can meet again. Long Ting also said. The sisters nodded. Fan Dongxing and Fan Donglu naturally didn't say much. Although they really wanted to be with Qin Hao, the current situation was just like what Venerable Han Mei said. Qin Hao had almost become the target of public criticism. If there was a slight mishap, they would die with him. Separating was indeed the best way. Right. Then take care of yourselves. Try not to fight for magic treasures or whatever. With me here, we won't lack anything. If you encounter something that you can't solve, remember to look for me. I believe my general direction will be constantly transmitted to your ears. Qin Hao's eyes flashed with a touch of arrogance and confidence. Before everyone could react, Venerable Han Mei frowned and said, Hao, you also have to restrain yourself a little. If you can avoid killing, try not to kill, especially within the human race. The path of the strong doesn't have to be stepped on bones. Too hard and it's easy to break. Those who want to kill me, I will definitely kill them. Master, you don't have to worry about this. There are at least thousands of years in this primitive secret realm. There's no need to worry about anything. Want to use your identity and background to suppress me? Dream on. If it's a competition of father, I won't be weaker than them. At most, when we go out, we'll fight. Qin Hao said. Competition of father? Venerable Han Mei frowned and was puzzled. Our background must be very strong. Alright, since it's decided, then I'll go first. Take care of yourselves. Qin Hao's gaze swept across everyone. While there was no suppression from the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing, he suddenly turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky. Competition of father. There are not many who can compete with your father. No one realized that deep in Venerable Han Mei's eyes were playful. It's a pity that I'm only a wisp of primordial spirit. In here you can only rely on yourself. Triggering heaven's punishment at a small realm, it's really out of my expectations. Also, your physical body's self-evolution. Could it really be related to her? Venerable Han Mei shook her head and looked at Qin Shui and the rest, who were still looking in the direction Qin Hao disappeared. She said, Don't look anymore. When he leaves, he will definitely soar into the sky. We've already been imprisoned for 20 years. If we want to catch up with his footsteps, we can only work harder in cultivation. Qin Shui and the rest replied. Han Mei, why do I feel that you're strange? Am I? Yunwei, I just figured out some things. We're not weak, we've just lost the heart of an expert. If you didn't think of yourself as a weakling, how could you not think of these problems? That's true. Mother, did you comprehend some secret technique? At this time, Qin Shui suddenly remembered that when Qin Hao fought with the 4 wild dragons, her mother had given her an inviolable will and asked. Yes, auntie. Previously, when Brother Hao fought with the 4 wild dragons, yes, master, we also felt it. That's right. Master hasn't spoken much during this period of time, so I've comprehended something. However, it's only a transformation of the mind and soul, and it's not enough to produce true power. Alright, now that so many people are triggering heaven's punishment, hurry up and comprehend it. This is a rare opportunity. Venerable Han Mei had long known that the abnormality from before would be questioned by the girls, so she said calmly. Chapter 720. 10 hours later. What bad luck. The 4 wild dragons are so arrogant in the divine temple, but they can't even kill that kid. Damn it. When Lan Feng saw the 4 wild dragons being smashed into the ground by Qin Hao's giant void palm, he didn't hesitate and ran away. Although he felt the violent tremors of heaven and earth, he didn't dare to pay attention to it. He had a feeling that Qin Hao had seen through him. Although he knew it was impossible, he didn't have the courage to take the risk. The Tao manifestation's celestial fruit core was already painful enough for him to kill himself. If he let Chen Hao rob him of his treasures again, he would die of anger. After running for 6 hours, Lan Feng finally slowed down and caught his breath. The further I go, the fewer forbidden areas and cities there are, and the more cultivators there are. If I meet that guy again, I won't be able to resist. He's too strong. Although Lan Feng didn't want to admit it, he knew that the 4 wild dragons were not weak, but Chen Hao was too abnormal. Suddenly, a few energy waves were felt. Who's there? Lan Feng was shocked. He unsheathed his sword and looked back and forth. The night sky was clear and there was nothing suspicious in the wilderness. Motherfucker, I, Lan Feng, am a disciple of the Divine Hall. How could I be so easily frightened? Phew. Let's find a cave to rest first. Although we can't fly in 10 hours, we've traveled at least a few 100,000 li. That brat can't possibly follow. Heh. Who's there? Lan Feng was horrified. If the energy waves he felt just now were an illusion, then the eerie laughter was definitely not an illusion. Don't play tricks. I'm Lan Feng, a disciple of the Divine Temple, the #1 genius of the Lan family. Heh. The eerie laughter was erratic, sometimes behind him, sometimes in front of him, sometimes in the east, sometimes in the west. Lan Feng couldn't lock on to the aura of the other party. Without the 9 celestial seals, any Earth celestial stage expert could do that. No one could move so fast. This meant that the eerie laughter definitely did not come from a single person. Lan Feng held his sword in one hand and nervously touched the bag on his back with the other. His hair stood on end as he sternly said, I don't care who you are. If you want to rob me, then I'm telling you, don't even think about it. With the token, any records will be sent back to the Alliance Center. Really? Whoosh. A figure that seemed to have completely blended into the night suddenly appeared in front of Lan Feng. His eyes shone with a dark blue light that resembled the wisps as he asked provocatively. When Lan Feng saw this figure, his heart skipped a beat. The phantom race? Boss, this should be a fat sheep, right? A human disciple of the Holy Palace. Deske, that's a pretty big bag. There should be a lot of good stuff in there. Another figure appeared behind Lan Feng and said excitedly. His voice was filled with the innate eeriness of the phantom race. Ignorant. Fourth brother, it's not that I want to nag at you, but although this kid is a disciple of the Divine Hall, his strength is only average. Look at him, he doesn't have the demeanor of a strong person at all. Did he piss himself? Just like that, what good stuff could there be? But it's better than nothing. Another figure appeared. Killing a human disciple of the Holy Palace is worth at least 1,000 contribution points. It doesn't matter whether there are treasures or not, The first phantom race cultivator who appeared, the leader of the 4, said eerily. Alright, let's do it. How dare you? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Fight me one-on-one if you have the guts. Lan Feng was frightened and frustrated. If he had known that he would encounter the phantom race here, he would not have dared to leave alone. However, there was no use in regretting it now. He could only think of a way to escape this calamity. Although he could not sense the aura of these 4 phantom race cultivators, he knew that they would not be weak if they dared to come here and kill a human. Especially since they did not even use their most proficient assassination technique. This was enough to show that they had the strength to kill him in a direct confrontation. One-on-one? Sure, you can fight us 4 brothers one-on-one. Boom. 4 phantom race cultivators have invaded. Save me. Lan Feng was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. However, he did not want to be killed just like that. He gathered all the energy in his body and shouted with all his might. At the same time, he raised his sword and charged at the one he thought was the weakest. Buzz. Dazzling golden light condensed into mysterious runes that appeared on the seemingly ordinary sword in Lan Feng's hand. In an instant, a majestic and vigorous sword light as heavy as a mountain rose into the air. Oh, what a powerful sword. Fourth brother, be careful. It's too late. Die. Boom. Fuck your mother. The 4th brother did not expect that Lan Feng, who had been scared out of his wits like a bear, would suddenly explode with such a powerful strength. Due to his carelessness, he was actually sent flying by Lan Feng's incomparably powerful sword light. If not for his fast reaction, he might have even died. This fucker, he was an expert at pretending to be weak. Chase. You wanna run? Dream on. Hiss hiss hiss. 4 figures instantly blended into the darkness at an astonishing speed. Save me. For there are only 4 phantom race cultivators. I'm Lan Feng, a disciple of the Holy Palace. Whoever saves me, I'll give you a sage artifact. Lan Feng's strength was not weak and he was blessed with amazing providence. He had obtained ancient artifacts and spirit herbs by himself, so he was definitely stronger than any team, even though he did not have the opportunity to enter any of the core palaces. Even so, these 4 people were not people Lan Feng could deal with. What was more tragic was that under the 9 restrictions of Immortal Sealing, the human team leader's token could not send out a distress signal. They could only shout. In this case, how to shout was very important. Fortunately, there were only 4 of them and their strength was not so strong that he could not fight against them. Lan Feng only needed to tell them the truth and promised a sage artifact as a reward. He believed that as long as there was a small team within 1,000 miles, they would definitely come to his rescue. However, the probability of encountering a cultivator in this boundless wilderness was very low. Die. The leader, who was the fastest, suddenly stabbed out with his spear when he saw Lan Feng entering his attack range. A violent and fierce spear dragon swept out. Boom. Lan Feng backhanded his sword and spat out a mouthful of blood. Under the huge impact, his body suddenly sped up again. Very good. This kid's sword is extremely powerful. It's stronger than any of the treasures we've obtained, the leader said excitedly when he sensed the profoundness of Lan Feng's sword. Full force. What? At this moment, to the surprise of the 4 spirit race cultivators, Lan Feng, who was frantically fleeing, actually opened the bag on his back. Taking advantage of the short time he was in the air, he took out a pair of sparkling silver battle boots and quickly put them on. When he landed and bounced up again, 2 bright silver runes flashed under his feet, and his speed increased by 10%. This was the space of the 9 restrictions of Immortal Sealing. To be able to increase one's speed by 10% and activate runes, it was definitely a sage artifact level treasure. The 4 of them were both surprised and delighted. Lan Feng jumped up again and took out a silver soft armor and put it on. After that, he put it on every time he was in the air. After a few times, this guy had turned into a silver armor. Even his head was equipped. Moreover, when the armor took shape, silver light rose from his body. Runes surrounded him and his speed increased by another 10%. Set bonus. Set. Fuck. It's actually a sage set. We're rich. The 4 spirit race cultivators were completely excited. Boom 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 boom. In an instant, it was as if they had taken an aphrodisiac, and their speed increased crazily. Lan Feng had never thought that wearing the awesome sage set that he had obtained through a fortuitous encounter in order to increase his chances of survival would cause the greed of the 4 to erupt. Not only did he fail to shake them off, but he also accelerated their speed. The surroundings were completely silent. No human cultivator responded. Ah. In the face of the threat of death, Lan Feng completely threw away his fear. There was only one thought in his mind: run. Run as fast as he could. However, rise. The 4 spirit race cultivators were clearly a team with great teamwork. The second brother bounced up and the leader pushed with all his strength. Like a cannonball, they flew through the air and instantly flew over Lan Feng's head. With a wave of their hands, they unleashed a terrifying sword strike. The blue sword light lit up the sky. Endless killing intent forced Lan Feng to spit out blood and swing his sword to meet it. Boom. In this confrontation, Lan Feng had the protection and enhancement of the sage set, so he was not injured. However, he was unable to use the force to increase his speed and escape. He knew that he would most likely lose his life here today. At this moment, Lan Feng was slightly regretful. He would rather be robbed by the demon Chen Hao than lose his life. After all, although Chen Hao had robbed him many times, he had never taken his life. This thought flashed past his mind. Lan Feng stopped and looked at the 4 spirit race cultivators who had surrounded him. His battle-intent sword. Run. Fuck your mother. Run again. Obediently hand over all your Dharma treasures, and I'll leave you with an intact corpse. Fuck your mother's bullshit. Even if I die, I'll drag one of you down with me. Come at me if you have the guts. Boom. Dazzling silver light lit up the space within a radius of 1,000 feet. Lan Feng's aura surged. In this hopeless situation, his pride as a disciple of the divine temple and the dignity of a human cultivator made him angry. However, he did not attack directly. Instead, he quickly took out a box from his bag, opened it, and took out a pill the size of a fist. He swallowed it in one swift motion. Even so, the pill gave off a strong medicinal fragrance. The 4 spirit race cultivators were stunned. How could this weak disciple of the divine temple have so many treasures? Could there be more treasures in such a big bag? Even an idiot could tell that the pill was a supreme-grade pill left behind from ancient times. Its medicinal strength was immeasurable. How valuable could it be? However, Lan Feng, whose eyes were filled with madness, actually swallowed it in one gulp. This was clearly a suicidal act. Boom. Roar. As soon as the pill entered his mouth, a majestic and terrifying energy burned in Lan Feng's body like a raging fire. He did not dare to use his mind to refine it. Even if he absorbed it naturally, he felt like his body would explode. However, in this situation where he was bound to die, he had no other choice. A beast-like roar rushed from his dantian to his throat. It exploded and reverberated through the sky. I should have attacked earlier. What a waste of such a good ancient pill. A figure who was watching Lan Feng and the 4 spirit race cultivators from afar said gloomily after seeing this scene. Chapter 721. Die all of you. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. The surging strength nearly caused Lan Feng to explode. He was unable to control this energy with his mind, much less condense any sort of ultimate skill rune. All he could do was send out pure energy from the ancient treasure sword. Lan Feng continuously slashed out with his sword, not even panting for breath. Thick sword energy spouted out for 1,000 feet, crisscrossing and slicing in all directions. Let's get out of the way first. Don't fight him head-on for now. We don't have to do anything. This guy will explode and die. That's right. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. What an idiot. An ancient pill the size of a fist can be preserved until now. It must be a supreme holy grade pill. Let alone an earth celestial, even Daluo Jinxian would have to refine it bit by bit. He's courting death. Damn it, what a waste. Yes, I'm so heartbroken. Hiss, 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 hiss. Faced with the pure and violent energy attack, the 4 cultivators of the Ghost Clan didn't dare to fight head-on. They blended into the darkness and retreated. Their voices were erratic, but they didn't panic at all. The Ghost Clan's talent was to hide and assassinate. At the same stage, it was difficult for cultivators of other clans to capture their aura. This was also the reason why they dared to enter the territory of the human clan to hunt cultivators when the other clans were gathering. Worm, come out and fight with me if you have the guts. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Boom, boom, boom. Lan Feng roared angrily. His eyes were bloodshot. He had risked his life to swallow that pill. He was prepared to die and he wanted to drag someone down with him. Powerful indeed, he became several times more powerful in an instant. However, he didn't expect that the cunning Ghost Clan wouldn't give him a chance to fight head-on. He had to admit that this was a very sad thing. Only an idiot would fight with you. Wouldn't it feel good to watch you explode and die? Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. This guy's strength is ordinary, but he has a lot of treasures and good luck. If we kill him, maybe we can have good luck. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. Tisk tea, how pitiful. It looks like he'll explode in a few minutes, right? That's right. Lan Feng was like a mad beast. He chased and attacked wildly, but it was all in vain. He couldn't even touch the corner of his opponent's clothes. I don't want to die. I can't accept this. Sensing the increasingly turbulent and violent energy in his dantian and body, Lan Feng madly brandished the sword in his hand. However, the speed at which he released energy was still unable to catch up with the vigorous medicinal efficacy of the pill. His fate seemed to be slowly walking towards a situation where his body would explode and he wouldn't be able to kill a single opponent in the end. Hiss! A figure brushed past like a gentle breeze. Under the clear night sky, even though it was impossible to completely conceal his figure, Lan Feng's body was radiating a dazzling light that resembled the sun and moon in the sky, attracting the attention of the 4 Spectre clan cultivators. However, no one noticed his arrival. Mountains, rivers, grass, and gravel were all used as props to conceal his figure. His footsteps were light and agile, and his movements were ethereal. With his heaven-defying physical body, he was only as tall as a 5- or 6-year-old child. He was like a cat and as fast as lightning. Compared to the talents of the Spectre clan, he was not inferior at all. Qin Hao had no choice but to make a move. Qin Hao couldn't bear to see the adorable son of destiny Lan Feng die just like that. Not to mention the Tao manifestation immortal fruit core. The treasures he had looted previously were no less than what he had obtained in the core palace. How could he die just like that? Even if they were thousands of miles apart by fate, it wasn't enough to describe the fate between Qin Hao and Lan Feng. This is the leader of the four. He's the strongest. I'll start with you first. Under the night sky, Qin Hao's eyes shone with a faint golden light, just like Sun Wukong's fiery eyes of truth. No, to be precise, it was the fiery eyes of truth. The Spectre clan's innate ability to conceal themselves was completely useless under his heavenly eye. Just like Hu Mainyang and the other fellows who wanted to be the Oriole, Qin Hao could see through them directly. In this situation, Qin Hao's heavenly eye had been restored to its original state when he used the fifth seal of the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing. Unfortunately, these 4 Spectre clan men were not as good-looking as a naked Hu Mainyang. Of course, Qin Hao wasn't in the mood to admire Hu Mainyang back then. Hiss, hiss, hiss. In an instant, Qin Hao, who was as small and agile as a child, was close to the leader of the Spectre clan. At this moment, Qin Hao held his breath and slowed down. His aura was completely concealed as he approached step by step. What a waste. The energy contained in this elixir is too terrifying. But the leader of the 4 didn't notice Qin Hao's approach at all. He watched as the frenzied Lan Feng attacked everywhere to vent his energy, but his body continued to expand like a balloon being blown up little by little. He couldn't help but feel pity for the elixir. Yes, it's really a pity. It should be at least a supreme-grade saint-level elixir. It's definitely a treasure. An equally sinister voice suddenly sounded behind the leader. Isn't that obvious? Supreme-grade saint-level. Who is it? The leader suddenly realized something and turned around in horror. Rumble. Swish. Poof. Oh. The leader of the Spectre clan was about to gather his energy when he turned around. However, he didn't see anything in front of him. He didn't even have time to swing his sword. An extremely violent pressure and energy suddenly appeared. His eyes widened. He only had time to see a cold glint before his glabella was pierced. Then, accompanied by his scream, his head exploded like a watermelon. Who is it? Boom. Boom. The other 3 spirit race cultivators were stunned by the sudden explosion of their boss's head. They only saw a small figure that looked like a dwarf, moving as fast as lightning, streaking across the sky like a stream of light. He was holding onto a treasured sword that was even longer than his body as he lunged toward the second of the 3 spirit race cultivators. The petite figure stretched and stretched in the void and suddenly transformed into the slender body of a young man. At the same time, a mountainous and ocean-like pressure descended. Swish. Sword light poured down like a long river and the setting sun. It cut through the sky like the Milky Way pouring down from the 9th heaven. Oh. You're courting death. Swish. While the second leader's hair stood on end, he felt a strong threat of death. At this moment he couldn't care less about hiding. He gathered his energy crazily to meet the unavoidable sword light. At the same time he retreated quickly, trying to buy some time for the other 2 brothers to come to his rescue. He knew very well that the person who could kill their leader silently was definitely an expert that he couldn't fight against. However, all of his thoughts stopped here. The dazzling and sharp sword light destroyed his sword light like a hot knife through butter. It cut through the top of his head and pierced through his glabella, splitting him into 2. The feeling of being unable to focus on his left and right eyes was still there. Then he was drowned by the terrifying explosion and endless darkness. His body and soul were destroyed. Oh! Horrified and shrill screams erupted from the mouths of the 3rd and 4th leaders who were charging over. The 2 of them stopped abruptly, their legs trembling. They turned around abruptly and tried to escape. However, their legs were weak. Even with all their strength, they couldn't reach their usual peak speed. It was too terrifying. If killing their leader was a sneak attack, then what about killing their second leader? They couldn't even block a single blow. Moreover, the time it took for the other party to rush from their leader to their second leader's position was astonishing. Die. Swish. Swish. Qin Hao held their leader's golden spear and his sword in one hand. His body was bent like a bow and his body trembled with a bang. The golden spear and sword contained terrifying energy and mysterious fluctuations of runes as they cut through the void. Puff. Two dull explosions sounded and the two people fell to the ground with screams. Oh. Boom. Boom. Senior, save me. I'm Lan Feng, a disciple of the Holy Temple. If you can, save my life, I, Lan Feng, will definitely reward you handsomely. The Lan family will also reward you handsomely. The crazy Lan Feng didn't lose his mind. Like a god of death, he killed the 4 ghost clan experts who had forced him into a dead end in an instant. It was too shocking. Such an expert was definitely one of the top experts of the human clan. Although he couldn't think of anyone with such strength, if this person wanted to save him, he would definitely be able to do it. In Lan Feng's opinion, this old man with a face full of wrinkles must be a senior who couldn't break through the Earth's celestial stage but had lived for countless years and raised his strength to the limit of the Earth's celestial stage. Although this kind of person wasn't a genius, he could dominate his own stage. You're welcome. Lan Feng, right? Old man has heard of you. Stop now and take off your armor. Take off all your clothes. Old man can directly suppress and extract the elixir from your dantian. Senior, I can't stop. Once I stop, the energy from the elixir will directly explode me. I see. This is a little troublesome. With such powerful energy, how can old man get close enough to help you? Senior, I'll send energy to both sides. Just come over. Boom. Boom. Lan Feng changed the direction of his treasured sword and palm, continuously attacking to the sides, leaving a large opening for Qin Hao to attack. This shouldn't be a problem. Qin Hao put his hands behind his back and had the demeanor of a senior expert. The aura and pressure around him were extremely powerful. However, what made Lan Feng anxious was that this guy was slowly approaching him as if he was taking a stroll in the park. It should be known that every minute and every second he had to bear the danger of exploding and the excruciating pain of dying. Senior, I beg you, hurry up. I can't hold on any longer. When the heavens are about to bestow a great responsibility on a man, they must first torment his will, toil his muscles and bones, starve his skin and starve him and exhaust his body. Travel messes up his actions, so he must endure and gain what he can't. Young man, your talent is not bad, but the most important thing is your wisdom. If you can't even bear this little bit of hardship, how can you do it? Senior, I really can't hold on any longer. I beg you, hurry up, hurry up. In order to make room for Qin Hao, Lan Feng had no choice but to vent to both sides. As a result, the speed at which he vented his energy was greatly affected. While he was speaking, his body, especially his lower abdomen and dantian, had been blown up by the wind. Chapter 722. What's the rush? With the old man here, even the king of hell won't be able to take your life. Endure a little longer. When you reach your limit, it won't be too late for the old man to make a move. This is for your own good. It's a rare opportunity to hone your skills. Qin Hao said with his hands behind his back. I can't hold it in. I beg you. Lan Feng wished he could crush this old man to death, but he had no choice but to endure the pain and beg Qin Hao. He knew that this was his only chance at survival. If the old man didn't make a move, he would die in less than 2 minutes. Qin Hao walked slowly and finally came close. His expression became more serious as he said, "Relax your mind and open it completely. Don't resist. Otherwise, even the old man won't be able to suppress such a violent energy." Okay. Lan Feng was on the verge of collapse. His face was swollen like a pig's head and it was difficult for him to speak. All he could do was howl. Qin Hao finally made his move. His palm glowed brightly as he slapped the space between Lan Feng's eyebrows with lightning speed. Ah! Lan Feng cried out in shock and his eyes instantly widened to the size of copper bells. He wanted to curse, but unfortunately his vision went black and he lost consciousness. In that instant he knew that he was done for. Because to suppress the energy in his body, he definitely shouldn't have slapped the space between his eyebrows, but his dantian. Good boy. After sealing Lan Feng's primordial spirit with a slap, Qin Hao laughed proudly. The wrinkles on his face disappeared instantly, and he returned to his original appearance. Then he stuck his palm onto Lan Feng's vital gate and lifted it up like a puppet. The majestic and terrifying medicinal power seemed to have found an outlet. It surged and rolled along Qin Hao's hands, entering his meridians and dantian. Qin Hao ignored it for the time being. He quickly collected the weapons, bags, and equipment of the 4 spirit race cultivators and left the scene. He went to a hidden cave in the mountain stream. After entering the cave, Qin Hao sat down cross-legged and pressed his palms against Lan Feng's vital gate. Chi. He slowly closed his eyes and focused his mind. The sound of the Grand Tao's chanting resounded in his mind. Reciting the general outline of the Great Tao had long since become Qin Hao's norm when cultivating. What a powerful medicinal effect! In almost an instant, the majestic medicinal power set off monstrous waves in Qin Hao's dantian. If it were not for his strong physical body and the abnormal tempering ability bestowed by the primary outline of the Great Path, Qin Hao would have had to endure immense pain. Even so, this was under the condition that he treated Lan Feng as a furnace. However, there was no doubt that this was exactly what Qin Hao wanted. This fellow has already released so much energy, but this pill has only consumed less than 1% of its energy. This is truly heaven-defying. Who knew how many heavenly treasures and spiritual herbs were needed to refine such a top-tier pill? Even the experts of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm would find it hard to get even one pill. This should be a saint-level spirit pill that can quickly replenish one's spiritual essence. Qin Hao carefully sensed the aura in the medicinal effect. He did not capture any mysterious runes. Obviously, this was not a special pill. However, he had only tempered it a little. Qin Hao had just killed 4 people, and although it seemed simple, he had consumed a lot of spiritual essence to recover to his peak state. This also allowed Qin Hao to deduce the basic function of this pill. I can't waste it. Although this energy is violent, it is extremely pure and high-grade. I have just stepped into the Earth's celestial intermediate stage, and it is just right for me to use it to temper my body. Qin Hao immediately began to devour and temper with all his might. However, he always maintained a perfect degree so that Lan Feng's body was always on the verge of exploding, and he could slowly absorb it. The most important thing was that he could not waste the medicinal effect. At the same time, he could also give Lan Feng a good opportunity. Qin Hao believed that after being tortured by this violent medicinal effect, Lan Feng's body would definitely have a good harvest. As for his soul and mind, there was nothing he could do. Lan Feng's soul had been suppressed by Qin Hao, and he had fallen into a coma. He could not feel anything at all. Perhaps only Qin Hao, who had a freakish body and tempering speed, could do this. If it were other Earth's celestial stage cultivators, no matter how fast they devoured and refined, they would not be able to consume as fast as Lan Feng. In other words, Lan Feng would eventually explode. However, Qin Hao's devouring and refining speed was balanced with the speed at which the medicinal effect was released by the pill. However, as the medicinal effect was released faster and faster, Qin Hao had to devour more quickly to maintain the balance of the energy in Lan Feng's body. This caused Qin Hao to be unable to refine the medicinal effect in Lan Feng's body, and the pain on his body and soul became more and more intense. This made Qin Hao so excited that he started to challenge his own limits. It had been a long time since he had encountered such a situation. Even the heavenly punishment that he had triggered before was very limited. After all, it was only a breakthrough of a small stage, and it was far from the real heavenly punishment that transcended stages. Chi. The entire cave dwelling was filled with terrifying energy fluctuations. Originally, Lan Feng's head was swollen like a pig's, but after several hours, Qin Hao himself had become even more swollen than Lan Feng. His entire body had expanded by more than 3 times, and every inch of his skin was stretched out. His blood vessels were clearly visible, as if they would burst at any moment. Even so, Qin Hao continued to expand unbridled. A day later, Qin Hao had already expanded to 5 times his original size. His entire body was like a round balloon. Lan Feng, on the other hand, was suspended in the air by Qin Hao's 2 hands, which had swelled to several times its original size. If Lan Feng saw the scene, he would be scared silly. Is this still the body of a human? 5 days later, in a pitch-black cavern, Lan Feng woke up slowly. I am not dead yet. So comfortable. So good. So powerful. Am I dreaming? No. My body and soul should have been destroyed. How can I still be conscious? Lan Feng opened his eyes. But Qin Hao had sealed up the cavern, so there wasn't even a trace of light. Lan Feng opened his eyes and saw nothing but darkness. No. Oh, I'm not dead. Senior. In the empty cavern, only Lan Feng's own voice echoed. Ah. Lan Feng stood up, clearly feeling an endless sense of comfort. His essence, energy and soul were full and his body was stronger than ever. But just as he took a step forward in the darkness, he suddenly felt a cold wind. He couldn't help but touch his body, and only then did he discover that he wasn't wearing any clothes. What frightened him even more was that between his legs, there was a cool air. This discovery caused him to cry out in alarm. A wisp of true essence bloomed, illuminating the entire cavern. Lan Feng saw his naked body and a chill ran down his spine. His face instantly turned pale and his chrysanthemum tightened. No. I don't feel anything. It can't be. The image of the old man appeared in his mind and Lan Feng's body trembled. At this moment he saw the flamboyant handwriting on the cavern wall. Kid, the old man saved your life and gave you a good fortune. So the old man will accept all your treasures. You're really a talent. Even your underwear is a treasure. See. Keep up the good work. The old man has high hopes for you. Ah. Lan Feng looked at the vigorous handwriting and immediately vomited 3 liters of blood. After howling madly for a while, he slumped to the ground with a bang. He opened his mouth and cried loudly. His cries were so loud that it was as if the world had turned dark. Anger? He couldn't be angry anymore. Vent? Who could he vent on? Would he dare to kill the 4 elites of the spirit race as if they were vegetables? Moreover, just like the message on the wall, it was a reward for saving his life and increasing his strength. But damn it, can you not be so ruthless? At least leave a pair of underwear. Sob, sob, sob. Give me a good fortune. What good fortune? The medicinal power will naturally strengthen my body. Old fart, you have the nerve to say that it was a gift from you? Sob, sob, sob. In this empty cavern, Lan Feng, who was extremely frustrated and aggrieved, no longer cared about his image. He was like a wronged wife and his eyes were red from crying. However, just as he stared at the handwriting on the wall and cursed old fart, his eyes suddenly widened and he stopped crying. The flamboyant handwriting seemed to have been drawn with a single stroke. At first glance one couldn't feel anything. However, upon closer inspection, one could faintly feel an extremely mysterious immortal sword will. Boom. When Lan Feng channeled his consciousness into the handwriting, there was a sudden boom in his mind. In an instant, it was as if countless brilliant rays of sword light flashed in his mind. Each ray of sword light was filled with boundless immortal sword will. This. Lan Feng was stunned. If Qin Hao was present, he would definitely be stunned as well. This was because he didn't expect that the message he had casually drawn on the wall with the sword light would actually integrate his sword will solitary sword technique and dow into it naturally. Old fart. No, senior didn't lie to me. What a terrifying sword will. This immortal aura has already reached a very high level. It has even integrated exquisite sword techniques into the handwriting. Lan Feng wiped away his tears and snot and laughed excitedly. Then he sat down with his legs crossed and began to comprehend the handwriting. The immortal sword will and the Tao it contained were already priceless treasures. Lan Feng had never heard of the exquisite sword technique it contained. Although Qin Hao had unintentionally left behind some superficial knowledge, there was no doubt that Lan Feng had opened a door to a whole new realm. The benefits would definitely last for a lifetime. How much he could reap from this path would depend entirely on his comprehension ability. Lan Feng stayed here for 3 months and found a set of ordinary Taoist robes that Qin Hao had left for him. This made Lan Feng shed tears of gratitude. When he left, he carefully dug out the entire handwriting on the wall and put it into his empty bag. Qin Hao's figure was like lightning. He shuttled through the mountains with a huge bag on his back. He held a sword in his left hand and a spear in his right. Chapter 723. The Son of Providence. That's awesome. The ancient holy soft armor set is comparable to a supreme holy artifact. 2 middle-grade holy swords and a bunch of spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits. The Gale sword art and the shadowless ethereal palm. Even the Taoist robe and underwear are made of precious materials that can repair themselves. This is much more than what I've gotten from entering the core palace. The 4 cultivators from the Ghost Clan also have a lot of good stuff, but it's nothing compared to Lan Feng's. He had only checked Lan Feng's bag when he was about to leave because he wanted to refine the spiritual herbs. He did not expect there to be so many treasures in the bag. When Qin Hao was checking whether Lan Feng had hidden any treasures, he found that the Taoist robe that should have been torn was intact. There was not even a speck of blood or dust on it. When he took a closer look, he realized it was from the ancient times. Wearing the Taoist robe that he had stripped from Lan Feng and washing his underwear several times, Qin Hao was very excited. Although this set of clothes wasn't an offensive or defensive treasure, it was made of precious materials. Especially with its self-repair function, it was really powerful. More importantly, wearing it made Qin Hao feel extremely comfortable. This kind of comfort came from his soul. It should be known that with Qin Hao's current cultivation, ordinary magical treasures wouldn't be able to give him this kind of feeling, especially for an abnormal soul like his. From this, one could see how awesome this set of clothes was. Fortunately, I came out this time. Otherwise, I would have missed this great opportunity. Hehehe. After refining the supreme holy grade spiritual pill, Su Ke, who had just reached the intermediate earth celestial stage, had completely stabilized his cultivation base. Just this alone was worth it, not to mention that there were so many other treasures. I should be able to reach the nearest forbidden city in half a month. However, I'm afraid the core palace has already been opened. Those treasures and inheritances are nothing to me. Moreover, I'm about to fully comprehend the sixth hex. Qin Hao touched the huge bag behind him and thought to himself. Suddenly he sped up again. The Forbidden City was the best place to comprehend the 9 celestial sealing spells. Anyone who had a chance of obtaining a palace would immediately enter the city to cultivate. Those who knew they did not have the strength to enter any of the palaces would choose to cultivate in the wilderness. In the wilderness, if you were lucky, you could get a decent harvest. Of course, it was impossible for everyone to be as powerful as Lan Feng, the unfortunate child of destiny. Every time he broke through a layer of the 9 restrictions and entered a city, it could be said to be a new starting line. This was because although every Forbidden Area's city had already been opened, all the cultivators were unable to directly enter the core through the gate of time and space like Helian Wuxia and the other 2. Only after the cultivators had obtained all the treasures and inheritances in the core palaces of every Forbidden Area's city would the Forbidden Area's city disappear and the cultivators would be able to enter the next level. Moreover, based on the time spent on the previous few levels, it could be deduced that the 6th level would take at least a year. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Qin Hao was not in a hurry. He spent most of his energy on cultivating and seeking opportunities. It was a pity that Qin Hao, who thought his luck was rather good, was unable to discover the mystic realm hidden in the wilderness. Instead, he encountered many human cultivators. When they saw Qin Hao, they avoided him. This was because Qin Hao would release his aura when he saw these cultivators approaching. He had no interest in hunting people who were too weak, even if they came with a purpose. If he wanted to fish, he had to at least catch a big fish. His bag was already very big. Ordinary things could no longer arouse Qin Hao's interest. He also encountered cultivators from the spirit race several times. At the beginning, Qin Hao stuck to his beliefs. If the other party avoided him, it would be fine. However, if they coveted Qin Hao's exposed divine artifacts, golden spear and sword as well as the huge bag on his back, then Qin Hao would not be polite. He would kill them without mercy. After a few times, Qin Hao realized that it was completely unnecessary. The spirit race's greed, cold-bloodedness, and savagery seemed to be their innate nature. After testing them 3 times, Qin Hao did not hesitate to kill the spirit race when he saw them. It was a pity that Qin Hao could only discard some ancient spirit artifacts and other items that would be very valuable in the outside world. Only the smaller spirit fruits, elixirs and other precious items were stuffed by Qin Hao into the bag that was twice his size. Under the celestial sealing restrictions, the brain dimension and storage items could not be opened at all. This was something that could not be helped. In the middle of the night in the wilderness after 3 months, Qin Hao had already passed through 3 forbidden city areas. Carrying a huge bag on his back, he held a spear in one hand and a sword in the other, moving forward at a moderate pace. Every step he took, it was as if he was stepping on a musical note. His entire person looked very heavy, but he gave off an ethereal and elegant aura. Whoosh whoosh, hehehe. This is so cool. I didn't expect this place to be a holy place for cultivation. Brothers jumped down. This human girl is only at the initial stage of the Earth celestial stage. Her strength is so powerful. She must be a genius of the human race. Whether she has treasures or not, she will get a lot of contribution points. Moreover, she brought us to this strange mystery land. Our pursuit of her for several hours was not in vain. Ha 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 ha. That's right. Leader, we spent so much effort. It was worth it. However, isn't it too easy for her to be killed like this? Don't tell me you are interested in this kind of woman? Heh heh. Leader, I didn't see it before. Now look at her carefully. Her figure is so good. Her real body can't be so ugly. Chen Hao, whose mind was immersed in the laws of the heavenly Tao, heard the spectre race's unique and lewd laughter from afar. Soon after, their voices drifted into Chen Hao's ears. A female disciple at the initial stage of the Earth's celestial stage? A strange mystery land? Chen Hao frowned slightly. The voice came suddenly. Although it was drifting, Chen Hao felt that it was not far away. It seemed to be only a few thousand feet away. But it was strange that if it was a few thousand feet away, it should not be drifting. As for the strange mystery land mentioned by the ghost clan, Chen Hao did not sense it at all. A moment later, his figure suddenly changed. He turned into a strand of light and flew toward the direction of the voice. In the past, Chen Hao might have liked to be a hero saving a beauty. But now he did not care about it at all. However, since he had encountered such a situation, Chen Hao would definitely not ignore it, especially when it came to the ferocious ghost clan. Of course, what was more important was the strange mystery land mentioned by the ghost clan. This was what Chen Hao needed the most. For a whole 3 months, Chen Hao had only encountered some very ordinary cave abodes. There were no treasures at all. The cultivation effect was even worse than in the city. Chen Hao carried the enormous bundle on his back as he moved about, nimbly shuttling through the lush mountains and ancient forests like an agile ape. He'd only shuttled through a distance of 1 kilometer when, to Chen Hao's surprise, the originally flat terrain suddenly disappeared, and a steep and deep gorge appeared before his eyes. If he had not been attracted by the sound, Chen Hao would not have discovered this marvelous terrain. This valley was circular in shape. It was about 10,000 feet in diameter. It was like a sinkhole in a plain. The cliffs were thousands of feet high and strange rocks were everywhere. Looking down, the water was sparkling. Even though it was night, he could see the lingering clouds. What was more amazing was that the energy of heaven and earth and the laws of heaven suddenly increased by several times. No wonder it sounded like it was a few thousand feet. Their voices came from the bottom of the valley and were spread to the top by this special terrain. What a good place. Chen Hao's eyes emitted 2 rays of golden light as he looked down at the valley. In an instant, he locked onto the figures of more than 10 ghost clan cultivators. These people were standing on the only flat ground at the bottom of the valley. In front of them was a lake that occupied almost the entire valley. Chen Hao looked down from above and could not see the whole picture. He did not know what was at the bottom of the valley. Similarly, he did not see the so-called human female cultivator. There shouldn't be any traps in the lake. Let's chase after them. The ancient cave abode should be inside. Just as Chen Hao did not understand why the ghost clan cultivators were not moving, the leader waved his hand and gave the order. Boom, boom, boom. Instantly, all of them were like arrows released from a bow. They increased their speed to the maximum and leaped into the air. Then Chen Hao could not see their figures. What he heard was the sound of splashing water. Could it be that there is another world below? Chen Hao thought to himself as he used the protruding rocks as leverage to descend rapidly. At this moment, Chen Hao was shocked. His true origin circulated and he almost fell from a height of 10,000 feet. Then he firmly stuck to a rock. It's so big. Chen Hao was shocked to find that the precipitous cliff was like the neck of a wine jar. As he descended, it suddenly expanded countless times. Chen Hao almost fell straight down. The lake, which was originally only 10,000 feet wide, became 10,000 feet wide. Countless night crystals shone on the walls like stars in the sky, illuminating this wine jar-like underground space. At this moment, the ghost clan cultivators had also passed through the lake and rushed into the hollow underground space. Chen Hao took a deep breath, and the true essence within his body began to crazily revolve through his strange meridians. In an instant, his body became as light as a feather, following the walls of the cave. No, it should be said that he was now on the top of the cave. He quickly flew inside, directly crossing the lake from the top of the cave and landing. What a magical place! The spiritual chi of heaven and earth and the heavenly Tao laws here are stronger than those in the core palace. Little girl, still want to run? Stop obediently and revert to your true form. If you can satisfy me, I might even take you in as a slave. At the very least, I'll let my brothers have some fun and let you die in pleasure. Tiskti leader, the more I look at her figure, the better. If you take her in as a slave, Kik. Don't worry, if I take her in as a slave, I'll just give you a good time. The human female cultivator was covered in blood. Her originally loose Taoist robe, after being soaked by the lake water, clung tightly to her body, revealing her lithe and exquisite figure without a doubt. At this moment she was already severely injured and she was forced into a corner of the underground cave by more than 10 spirit clan cultivators. Chapter 724. In this blind spot was a red and gold circular door. The door was covered with complicated runes and exuded a mysterious and ancient aura. Fresh blood, wet footprints, and a thick layer of dust on the ground. It was obvious that no one had set foot in this place for many years. Unfortunately, the female human cultivator could not open the door at all. When she tried to force it open, she was injured by the protective light emitted by the golden door. Her injuries worsened, and she glared angrily at the dozen or so Earth Celestial Realm cultivators who were spouting obscenities. She trembled as she held her sword horizontally in front of her chest. Drip, drip, drip. Blood gushed out from the wound between her thumb and index finger once more as the young girl forcefully circulated her energy, and it flowed down along the sword. Suddenly, a mysterious aura surged from the girl's body. Her originally ordinary face disappeared. Perhaps because she had lost too much blood, she was extremely pale, but her beautiful little face appeared in front of everyone's eyes. She looked to be at most 15 or 16 years old. She was still young and did not match her curvy figure at all. Beautiful. She is indeed a rare beauty. Hee. Little girl, how old are you? I can tell you now that from now on you are my maid. Dream on. All of you must die. The young girl's voice was young but pleasant to the ears. Her clear eyes suddenly looked behind the dozen spirit cultivators. Eldest senior brother, are you still not going to make a move? Jinhao was slightly shocked. Had this little girl discovered him? But the direction she was looking at was not the place where he was hiding. Little girl, I used this trick when I was in diapers. You little girl. Do you know the danger now? Just as Jinhao was about to reveal himself and the cultivators of the spirit race were still mocking the young lady for her scaring tactics, a doting voice drifted over. Regardless of whether it was the cultivators of the spirit race or Jinhao, all of them were taken aback. Who is it? Come out with me. Hiss. The leader of the spirit cultivators shouted angrily. Immediately the dozen of them disappeared into thin air. Apparently they had used the innate ability of the spirit cultivators. Rumble. With a loud explosion, the leader of the spirit clan, who had just concealed himself, flew out from the girl's sight. His blood stained the air, and he did not even have the chance to scream before he fell to the ground with a plop, turning into a corpse. You're the little girl. She was already 16. You're only 17. The young girl stared at the figure in front of her with dissatisfaction. Her pale little face shone with a blush. What? Let's go, smelly senior brother, don't let them escape. The young girl reminded him with bright eyes. If you can't run, are you still going to force yourself in the future? The young man, who left the crowd with only his back view, did not seem to care about the spirit clan at all. He did not even look at them as he casually flicked his finger several times. However, every time he flicked his finger, a spirit clan cultivator would fall to the ground like a dead pig. There was a ghastly bloody hole in the center of their brows. If you keep talking, I'm going to ignore you. The young man didn't seem to move much, but he emitted a bright green light that enveloped the heavily injured girl. A majestic aura of life spread out, and the girl immediately sat cross-legged with a comfortable smile on her face. So powerful. Jinhao, who was hiding in the distance, was dumbfounded. From the beginning to the end, he did not sense the presence of the young man. Until now, he had not even seen the young man's face. However, more than 10 spirit clan cultivators were killed just like that. It was easier than stepping on a few ants. He must be a top expert in the heavenly immortal realm. No matter how confident Chen Hao was, he knew that he was no match for this young man. At best he was slightly better than these spirit clan cultivators, but he could not escape death. 1617. When did the human race have such a monster? I've seen the overall combat strength ranking. It's impossible that I don't have any impression of him. Fortunately I wasn't discovered. Chen Hao had even restrained his soul perception to avoid alerting the young man. Although he was not an enemy, he had to be cautious. The young man was too powerful. So powerful that Chen Hao did not have the slightest chance of winning. Even if he was a heavenly immortal, Chen Hao did not think that he could do so. Moreover, he was under the 9 restrictions of immortal sealing. Chen Hao did not move at all. It was as if he had turned into a statue. He was waiting for an opportunity to leave as soon as possible. In just a few breaths, the majestic light of life slowly dissipated. The young girl jumped up lightly. Her young and tender face was as beautiful as a flower. There was not a trace of paleness left on her body. Not even a trace of injury was left on her body. Such a terrifying healing power made Chen Hao dizzy again. He even suspected that this was not real. After the young girl stood up, she looked directly at Chen Hao's hiding place and shouted, "Hey, sneaky kid, come out." Chen Hao's heart skipped a beat. "Junior sister, don't be rude. He was just about to save you." The young man patted the young girl's head and slowly turned to look at Chen Hao's hiding place. He said, "Brother, since you're here, come out. This may be your opportunity. We won't make things difficult for you." Cough cough. Chen Hao was sweating in his heart. He originally thought that the young man had not discovered him. Now it seemed that his every move was under the young man's control. Even the young girl seemed to have discovered him long ago. However, what puzzled Chen Hao was that he did not understand the young man's words. But at this time he could no longer hide. Carrying a huge bag, holding a golden spear and a treasured sword, he walked out lightly. At this time, Chen Hao had already seen the young man's appearance clearly. He was only 16 or 17 years old, and his hair might not even be fully grown yet. However, Chen Hao could not really treat him as a young boy. The young man was not very handsome, but like the young girl, every inch of his skin was perfect and flawless, emitting a sparkling luster. His whole body exuded an aura that Chen Hao had never sensed from anyone before. "The blood qi is so heavy." The young girl frowned and stared at Chen Hao. Her clear eyes seemed to see through Chen Hao. "Although the blood qi is heavy, your beer is untainted. It's fine." The young man smiled and stared at Chen Hao. There's so much food. Chen Hao's heart skipped a beat. Especially when he saw that the young girl's eyes were looking at the huge bag behind him. Chen Hao felt a little uneasy. If these two people wanted to rob him, he really would not be able to do anything. He would definitely become the second Lan Feng. Greedy. It won't do you any good, but it's a spiritual medicine for him. I just want to eat. Hey, what's your name? The young girl asked first. Chen Hao. How should I address the two of you? Chen Hao cupped his fists and said in a deep voice. Since he had reached this point, Chen Hao had nothing to worry about. At worst he could just leave naked. If the young man wanted to kill him, even if he could struggle a little, it would be useless. But now the young man's expression did not show any hostility. My name is... Senior brother, what are we called? We don't have names. The young girl and the young man's words confused Chen Hao, but he could tell that the two of them were not lying. This meant that the two of them were not human cultivators at all. The young man also said that the spirit fruit was useless to the young girl. Chen Hao did not understand and could not figure it out. The spirit fruit in his bag would be priceless spiritual medicine in the outside world. How could it be useless to cultivators? Don't worry about what we are called. Can you give me the spirit fruit in here? I'll give you something in exchange. Although Chen Hao was reluctant and he was certain that this deal was unfair, he still agreed. The situation was compelling. If he hadn't seen the young man's heaven-defying cultivation, he would have let it go. But since he had seen it, no matter how unwilling Chen Hao was, he could only give in. Otherwise he would be an idiot. Besides, although the young man said that the spirit fruit was useless to the young girl, Chen Hao noticed that when he agreed, the seemingly aloof young man also swallowed his saliva. Senior brother, I'll go get it. Brother Chen Hao, wait. After the young man finished speaking, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. In front of him, Chen Hao did not feel any energy fluctuation. It was as if the young man did not exist at all. He just disappeared into thin air. What a strong cultivation. Chen Hao could not help but praise. Of course, my senior brother is amazing. But 2 years later I'll be just as powerful. Chen Hao, give me the spirit fruit first. There's nothing to eat within 100,000 miles. I've been hungry for a long time. 2 years. You'll be as powerful as your senior brother? Chen Hao said in surprise. As he spoke, he removed the bag on his body and took out a few spirit fruits and passed them to the young girl. Of course. My senior apprentice brother was born a year earlier than me. 2 years later, I'll be able to become Dao companions with my senior apprentice brother at the age of 18. We'll share our divine abilities. Don't be fooled by how strong my senior apprentice brother is. Are you humans? Chen Hao could not help but ask. Humans? I don't know what you're talking about. Crunch. As the young girl said that, she happily ate the spirit fruit. That look made Chen Hao feel as if he was looking at Long Ting. That, aren't you the cultivators from the top 10 clans who entered the primitive mystic realm this time? What top 10 clans in the primitive mystic realm? Show me your memories. If not, I don't know what you're talking about. My senior brother and I were born from master. Although we have many inherited memories, we don't have what you're talking about. That won't do. Everyone has their own privacy. How can I casually show you my memories? Chen Hao realized that this little girl was completely ignorant of worldly affairs. She didn't understand the ways of the world at all. She was frighteningly naive. In reality, even his senior brother, who appeared mature on the surface, was only mature on the surface. Otherwise, he would not have acted like he wanted to eat the spirit fruit too. But there was one thing. Both of them were extremely pure in their hearts. Therefore, Chen Hao was not worried about anything and said deliberately, "Well, if that's the case, then it's too slow to communicate with each other. Condense it into a message for me, or I'll trade with you. You look at mine and I'll look at yours. Is that okay?" You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.